You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 9th part of What If Deku Meets Powerpuff Girls. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of ChiWriters on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. It was well past midnight and Hosu City was draped in the distilled silence of night. At the hospital, the usual bustle had quieted to a mere murmur of occasional footsteps echoing down the empty corridors. The nurses, engrossed in their duties at the nursing station, remained oblivious to the figure gliding stealthily through the shadows. Silent as a wraith, the intruder slipped through the labyrinthine hallways, navigating with practiced ease. Passing by room after room, they finally halted at the entrance of a particular room. With cautious precision, they turned the handle, easing the door open without a sound. Inside, a lone figure lay in peaceful slumber, oblivious to the presence that now approached. The patient, wrapped in bandages, appeared serene despite the pain they must have endured. The soft glow from the monitors cast gentle hues across their form, illuminating the room in a subdued ambience. As the intruder drew nearer, their eyes scanned over the patient's still form, noting the tranquil expression softened, probably by the pain medication administered. A hand, steady and deliberate, extended over the patient's body. A deep breath was drawn, the intruder focusing intently on their task. In that moment, the room that had been shrouded in darkness was suffused with a faint, ethereal glow. For 10 minutes, the soft radiance enveloped the patient, its purpose obscured but unmistakable in its intent. As the glow faded back into the comforting embrace of darkness, the intruder withdrew, moving swiftly and silently to depart unnoticed. However, their departure did not go entirely unnoticed. "Whahm," a voice stirred from the bed, the patient roused from their medicated slumber. Whether it was the sensation of a presence or a subconscious awareness, their eyes fluttered open. In the dim light filtering through the window, they caught a glimpse of a retreating figure clad in dark clothing, disappearing into the shadows. Momentarily perplexed, the patient hesitated, unsure if they had dreamt the encounter. Yet, feeling a newfound sense of calm and relief coursing through their body, they settled back into the pillows with a sigh. Whatever had transpired, they knew one thing for certain: tonight, they would rest peacefully. The morning of the final day of internships had come, and everyone was saying their goodbyes to the heroes that took them in. Izukumidoriya opened the door to the old apartment building and walked down the steps, a smile on his face as he made it to the sidewalk. "Well, it is time for me to head out now, sir," he said up to the elderly man standing there. "I'm not gonna say it has been smooth sailing, but you are pretty good, kid." Gran Torino chuckled out. "I haven't moved so much in quite some time." "I appreciate what you did for me, sir." Midoriya gave a bow to the gray-haired pro. "I'll thank All Might for your training." "Bah, don't need to sweat it. I am sure my old student will appreciate that I managed to get you a little bit further in your mastery." The man shrugged, before leaning into the space of the green-haired kid. "Just make sure to not get yourself into too much trouble, or I will personally whoop your danger-prone ass." The man glared, as he scolded him. I will try at least," Izuku stammered, struggling to look the man in the eyes, knowing fully well that he could make such a promise. Torino sighed, knowing fully well that the kid before him was beyond talking out of. "Anyhow, just keep doing what you're doing." The man smirked, "and with who you're doing it with. If you know what I am getting at." That garnered a rising blush from the green-haired kid, at the mild innuendo. What are you talking about?" The man chuckled at the obliviousness of the boy. As the team began walking away, Gran Torino called out one last time. "Hey, by the way, who are you again?" "What?" Midoriya gasped at the bland look on the hero's face. I am mid-dash. Izuku's eyes widened slightly when he finally realized what he was asking, his face becoming more stern. I'm evergreen. Grinning at the answer, Gran Torino turned and went back inside, not needing to say any more to the teen. Once the doors closed, the grin on the man faltered as he would need to make a call soon. Genius Hero Agency. The incident in Hosu's city this week, Best Jeanist looked over at his multiple sidekicks with serious eyes. It certainly worries me. Yes, it worries me quite a bit. He continued to comb a shaking bakugou's hair, the explosive blonde suppressing a growl at the waste of time coming here had been. People are so easily distracted by big incidents like these. But it's now, more than ever, that heroes need to remain calm and composed. Because chaos is often so good at drawing out the slumbering brutality in people's hearts. He finished combing Bakugou's hair into a tamed part, so very different from the ash blonde's normal spiky hair. As such, we'll continue our usual operations today, just as always. Let our genes keep our bodies and minds bound upright. Sure. Best Jeanist. The group of sidekicks, all in fact wearing jeans of some types, chorused back their agreement. I came to the wrong place. Bakugou's combed hair suddenly poofed out into its normal spikes as his irritation grew. He didn't even care for jeans, but had been forced to wear them as an intern of Best Jeanist's agency. Fat Gum's agency. Today was their final sparring session, and it was against another one of Fat Gum's sidekicks. Momo and Kirishima stood side by side in the battle room, awaiting what was to come next. Fat Gum observed from a distance, his expression calm yet attentive as he prepared to witness their progress in action. All right, you two, Fat Gum's voice resonated across the training ground. Remember what we've practiced so far this week. Stay focused and support each other. Kirishima nodded firmly, flexing his hardened fists. We're ready for this, Momo. Momo adjusted her goggles, her mind racing through strategies. Let's show her what we're made of, Kirishima. Fat Gum stepped forward, his gaze shifting between his interns and the newcomer. Today, you'll face Hana Ishikawa, one of my sidekicks. Her quirk, molecular resilience, allows her to manipulate her body's density at will. This makes her incredibly adaptable in combat, capable of withstanding powerful attacks and maneuvering swiftly. A seemingly perfect matchup for your final battle. The woman stood at medium height with a lithe, athletic build. Her hair was a vibrant crimson, often tied back in a practical ponytail to keep it out of her face during combat. Her hero costume was designed for flexibility and mobility, with reinforced panels that adapted to her changing density and a color scheme that reflected her vibrant personality. Hana nodded in acknowledgement, her expression focused yet approachable. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do. With that, everyone assumed their fighting stances. Begin. Fat Gum's command marked the start of their challenge. Kirishima wasted no time, charging forward with his hardened arms, aiming a powerful punch at Hana. She reacted swiftly, adjusting her density to increase resilience. Kirishima's blow landed with a resounding thud, but Hana absorbed the impact with ease, her body adapting seamlessly. Fat Gum's voice echoed across the field, analyzing their movements. Good initial strike, Kirishima. Hana, maintain your focus. Nice try, kid, she knocked Kirishima back just in time. Momo swiftly threw a few canisters she had created, which exploded to produce a smoke screen, obscuring the older woman's field of vision. Very clever taking away my sight. Hana adjusted her density again, becoming lighter and quickly evading an incoming staff swing from the side. But not clever enough. Changing her density to become much heavier, she launched a punch towards Momo, who quickly dodged. Kirishima, go. Right. With that, Kirishima pressed on, launching punch after punch, his attacks relentless as he aimed to overwhelm Hana's defenses. Kirishima, keep up the pressure. Momo shouted, her eyes darting between her creations and Hana's movements. Hana's strategy evolved as the battle progressed. She alternated between increasing her density to match Kirishima's strength and decreasing it to enhance her speed and agility, keeping Momo and Kirishima on their toes. Fat Gum watched attentively, his presence grounding them in the heat of battle. Momo, adjust your tactics based on her responses. Kirishima, look for openings. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as the trio engaged in intense combat. Kirishima's determination remained unwavering, fueled by Momo's tactical support. Together, they coordinated attacks and strategies, each move a testament to their growth under Fat Gum's mentorship. Despite their coordinated efforts, Hana's resilience and adaptability began to shift the tide. With precise timing and calculated maneuvers, she exploited a momentary lapse in Kirishima's defense, delivering a decisive blow that sent him staggering back. Gah! Kirishima choked out. Momo rushed to Kirishima's side, her expression a mix of concern and determination. Are you okay? Hana approached them, her demeanor composed yet acknowledging. You're strong, she remarked, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of respect. But you're predictable. You need to vary your attacks more. Fat Gum approached calmly, his voice a steady anchor amidst the intensity. Great spar, both of you. Kirishima, your persistence is commendable. And Momo, your creativity and quirk speed have been exceptional. Kirishima pushed himself upright, wiping sweat from his brow. We couldn't win. Momo nodded, her gaze fixed on Hana with newfound respect. But we've learned so much from this. Hana nodded in agreement, her eyes flickering with a hint of a smile. Every battle is a chance to grow stronger. You both have potential. We'll keep getting stronger, Kirishima declared, his resolve unshaken. Momo looked to Fat Gum, gratitude shining in her eyes. Thank you for guiding us through this, Fat Gum. Fat Gum smiled warmly, a sense of pride radiating from him. You're both on the right path. Keep pushing yourselves, and you'll achieve greatness. After exchanging nods with Hana and bidding farewell to Fat Gum, Momo and Kirishima left the training ground, their bodies weary but spirits high. As they walked towards the exit, Kirishima clapped Momo on the shoulder with a grin. We did pretty good out there, huh? Momo smiled back, nodding in agreement. Indeed, I do believe we worked hard there. And no doubt that our efforts will show when we get back to school, her enthusiasm was palpable. Hosu Hospital, Visitors Lounge. Blossom and Buttercup sat side by side in the quiet visitors' lounge of Hosu Hospital, the sterile scent of disinfectant lingering faintly in the air. The area was empty, which was good as they needed some privacy. They huddled around Blossom's smartphone, the screen displaying a video call with Bubbles. The hospital lounge, though sparsely decorated with minimalistic furniture, provided a serene atmosphere for their conversation. I still can't believe that you fought him by yourself. Bubbles exclaimed, fear and worry in her voice. Like I said before, you hogged all the fun, fearless leader, Buttercup said with a pout. Blossom responded with a groan and eye roll. A couple of days had passed since the stain/him incident, and the girls were still uneasy. Blossom had been instructed by the authorities not to mention this to the general public, but she felt it was too significant to keep from her sisters. I wouldn't call that experience fun, now would I? She said, casting a glare at her middle sister. Buttercup just shrugged. Blossom sighed. Bubbles, it was intense, she began, her voice reflecting the weight of recent events. Honestly, I did not expect him to show up, much less control an innocent person's. Innocent my ass. Doesn't the name, Hero Killer Stain, mean anything to you, Red? I don't think he got that name from anything innocent, Buttercup interjected firmly. I know, Buttercup. But let's not forget what I told you guys about what happened after him left Stain alone, Blossom said. I thought you said you kicked him out of the guy's body, Bubbles asked, confused by her words. Blossom shook her head, no, Bubbles. I basically weakened the guy's body from the damage I and our classmates inflicted. You know him, it would take a lot more firepower or an embarrassing defeat before he concedes a fight, she explained. I could have handled the situation better if I wasn't so surprised. The way it played out, I was glad I was exhausted before I could have really let loose, Blossom sighed, concerned about what might come next. Don't worry, Blossom. At least you managed to handle the situation by yourself, Bubbles said, her words comforting. Yeah, you kicked his butt. Now what were you going to say about Mr. Innocent? Buttercup interjected. Oh yes. It was strange. After the battle, I was out like a light, but I woke up to him's energy in the air. When I came to, it was as if the guy had gone mad, like he had lost his mind. And there's a certain memory I can't recall, which worries me. Blossom's tone was somber. Seems like Stain made a deal with the literal devil, Buttercup joked, trying to ease her own worry. Guys, I have a bad feeling that he might try something like this again, Bubbles added fearfully. You and I both, Bubs. Didn't the freak say he never pulls the same trick twice, or some junk? Buttercup said. But that's the thing. We don't even know what he is planning next, or if him, Stain, and that Shigaraki from the USJ are working together. It seems like a recipe for trouble, for both us and this world, Blossom said, the atmosphere in the room growing cold and tense. I say we find his red as end. And what? Need I remind you, Buttercup, that in this world, we are not the only superheroes, and it is bigger and more complicated with all these laws and rules. We can't even locate him, since he could have changed his appearance, and he is tricky. Not going to reveal himself, unless he wants to, Blossom said. I wonder why he won't just fight us. Why is he stalling? Bubbles asked curiously. I don't know, but I guess we will just have to wait and see what comes next, Blossom calmly said. There was a silent understanding before Bubbles spoke up. Sorry, guys, I will have to go. Gang Orca has me on patrol, and then I will need to hurry and get a train back by Sunday, before school. I will hopefully see Koda on the way back, Bubbles said apologetically. Blossom and Buttercup glanced at each other before they turned their attention back to the phone. It's okay, Bubbles. We'll see each other tomorrow when you get off the train station, Blossom reassured her. Yeah, then you can tell us more about how you totally decked one of these stupid villains. Give our best to the friendly giant, Buttercup said. Bubbles smiled at that. Thanks guys. I will see you tomorrow when I arrive. Miss you, bye. They all gave a round of waves and goodbyes before the connection cut. Putting the phone away, Blossom rested her tired self. Buttercup quirked her eyebrow at the scene, still reeling from the punishment the ninja guy gave you. Blossom groaned, sliding a hand through her hair. He said he wasn't unhappy with me saving my classmates, but he still gave me the task of cleaning the dojos from top to bottom. Without using my powers, she sighed. Honestly, having 3 of them was a pain. Buttercup tried miserably not to look amused. Yeah, it's very funny, Blossom sarcastically said. There was a moment of silence before Blossom broke it. Buttercup. What's up, Red? Do you have any idea what him could be planning? Heck if I know what that BSTRD is thinking, Buttercup said, crossing her arms. What I do know is that he must be very dumb to go against us. We're the Powerpuff Girls, and we'll find that clown-faced, tutu-wearing creep and whoop his. Okay. I get it, Buttercup. Blossom let out a good laugh, feeling better after her sister's somewhat of a pep talk. Buttercup glanced at her and showed a small smile at Blossom's less stressed demeanor. But before she could relax, suddenly, Recovery Girl's voice echoed through the lounge, startling the 2 girls. There you are, Buttercup. I've been looking all over for you. We're not done, Missy. After that little run you did last time, I'm not finished giving you your punishment. Buttercup groaned, clearly not wanting to deal with more consequences. She looked over at Blossom, silently pleading for help. Blossom, however, stared back at Buttercup with a wicked grin, mouthing out the words, good luck, much to Buttercup's annoyance. As Buttercup was dragged away by Recovery Girl, complaining all the while, Blossom returned to taking a well-deserved break. A certain thought flashed through her mind: karma is good. UA Faculty Lounge. Then there's this League of Villains. Gran Torino didn't bother responding to his old student's words. The media is already making connections, whether they're true or not, so this league is going to go from a gang of upstarts that attacked UA and got beaten, to an organization with something to say. He cleared his throat quietly. In other words, they're the perfect magnet. The evil of individual thugs isn't worth much, but when it's all united under a single will, it'll become 100 times more dangerous. I know, Toshinori admitted as his free hand tightened into a fist. If this situation was what they were gunning for from the start, then their head honcho isn't a slouch. Gran Torino's eyes narrowed as he continued. Steadily removing their obstacles, manipulating the whole situation from the shadows, making sure everything goes according to their plan. That way of doing things, he took a deep breath. Shimura was my friend, your predecessor as the holder of One for All. And the man that killed her, the one that tore that hole in your gut, I think we both know that All for One is behind this. Yes, Toshinori admitted with a grimace, feeling an ache from his injury. To think he somehow survived after those wounds, I didn't want to believe it. That kid that you've chosen. Gran Torino spoke softer this time. You need to make sure that you sit down and tell them everything. About you, about One for All, and especially about All for One. I know, Toshinori accepted that with a heavy sigh. Even though such deep breaths or exhalations irritated his damaged respiratory system. One more thing, Toshinori, when I faced Stain, there was something else strange about him, there was a greater air of unease and Toshinori could sense it. I did say that he had an energy that was filled with so much hate and danger, but there was also something else in him, in his eyes. It was like chaos and madness. With that, the call ended and many thoughts were circling the number one hero's mind. Chaos? What does he mean, and does it really involve him? The sound of train tracks reverberated in the air of the train car, a rhythmic clattering that seemed to pulse through the very walls of the compartment. Each jolt and vibration was absorbed by the cushioned seats, which gently rocked in time with the motion. In the midst of this ambient cacophony, Bubbles was sitting on one of the seats, fully dressed in her school uniform, with her hero suitcase beside her legs. She had wrapped up her internship with Gang Orca and was heading home, taking the route that fortunately, was passing through Hosu. She took the opportunity to communicate with her dear friend Kuda, while she waited. I am still a bit sad that you got to meet the wild pussycats and I didn't. I read about them and they seem cool, granted, I thought they were actually cat heroes. Bubbles kind of felt like an idiot for thinking that at first. When she was told about the whole internship week, she was chatting with Kuda, and when he told her of his choice, she got super giddy about the thought of more animal superheroes in this world. Besides Nizu. It was after Kuda calmly, and awkwardly told her that they were in fact humans dressed in cat-themed hero attire. Safe to say that it was a laugh shared between them. Ping. Kuda, it was actually really cool. I was nervous at first, but I enjoyed their company, especially the one I told you about. Who can speak to you through telepathy? Bubbles could not help but smile at her friend's text. She could almost feel the excitement coming through the phone, and that made her glad to see he was getting out there. Ping. Kuda, I hope your internship was also great. You texted me about it some time back, but I understood that you were busy. Kuda, are you back home yet? What about your sisters, have you met up with them already? She read it and was about to respond, when the train made a stop and the train's door opened wide. Two distinct voices were making their way into the cart. Do keep an eye out for Bubbles. Her text said that she would take this train. At this time, Blossom said to Buttercup, as they scanned a slightly packed cart. Oh, there she is, Buttercup pointed out. They quickly spot their blonde pigtailed wearing sister, waving them over with a bright smile. They made their way over to the empty seats available from her. Hey girls, she cheerily greeted. Good morning Bubbles, Blossom greeted with a smile. Hey, Bubs, Buttercup then tossed over a brown paper bag, that she walked in with, to the blonde sister. "We got you some grab to munch on. Knowing your little appetite and all," she explained with a little smirk. Bubbles graciously caught the bag, then stuck her tongue out to her second oldest sister. "Thanks, guys." She opened it to find what looks to be 2 chicken salad sandwiches, a juice box and a blueberry muffin. "No problem, Bubbles. Now, if you two won't mind, I would like to catch a little nap, before we arrive," she said with a small yawn and rest her head on the seat head behind her. "Whatever, get your beauty sleep," Buttercup said, pulling out her phone to keep herself distracted. Bubbles took a moment from her food to ask, "Buttercup, I thought that you would have gone with Recovery Girl, or at the very least, been home by now," curious as to why she was here instead. Well, Blossom had already chalked up her ninja training with her hero mentor and came over, so Granny, so graciously kicked me to the curb, while she handles whatever medical stuff is at the hospital. "Honestly, I am just glad that I am away from that stuffy place," she said with a groan. "I see," Bubbles nodded, and proceeded to continue eating her food. The rest of the journey was spent in silence, only the occasional questions, here and there but nothing more. It was Saturday morning at 11:57 a.m., and Mustafa City's train station was bathed in a gentle, golden light. The sun hung high in a sky dotted with wisps of clouds, casting a warm, pleasant glow over the bustling platform. The air was crisp but not cold, with a hint of summer warmth still lingering from the previous day. Midnight sat on a bench near the tracks, her civilian outfit a stark contrast to her usual hero costume. She wore black-blue skinny jeans and a red, white t-shirt that clung comfortably to her frame and navy blue and black sneakers. Her hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail, and she sported a pair of reading glasses, giving her a more relaxed, unassuming look. She checked her phone for the umpteenth time, her fingers tapping impatiently as she glanced at the screen. "I hope the girls will be here on time," she thought, a small frown of concern tugging at her lips. Her usual composed demeanor was tinged with a touch of anxiety as she scanned the arriving passengers, hoping for the familiar faces. As the clock ticked closer to 12 o'clock noon, the sound of the approaching train grew louder. Midnight's gaze sharpened with anticipation, and she stood up, her eyes fixed on the tracks. The train rumbled into the station with a deep, resonant sound, coming to a smooth stop before her. The doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Midnight's heart skipped a beat as she saw the girls stepping out of the train. She gave a soft, relieved "oh" and took a step forward, eager to welcome the girls back. Coming down from the train were her temporary wards, carrying their suitcases, as they made their way off the platform. The girls quickly noticed their guardian approaching them, surprisingly in normal clothes. They chalk it all up to wanting Picking to pick them up. "Hello girls, welcome," Namuri said with a small smile. "Hello, Miss Namuri. Glad to be back," Blossom responded. "Not to sound rude, miss, but, what are you doing here? We thought you would be patrolling." "Well, I am going back to work on Monday, such as you will be back at school," she responded. "Ugh, don't remind me," Buttercup groaned out. "I will have to remind you, little missy," Midnight said with a teasing smirk. "Well, seeing as we all had a lot to talk about, I thought it'd be best to all go home together and rest," she concluded. She did it. Buttercup and Bubbles instinctually point at their red-headed leader, much to her shock and annoyance. Deja vu anyone? Midnight just chuckles at that. "Let's head home, I had prepared something to eat when we get back," she said. "All right." Buttercup fist pumped in the air in excitement. "Thank you, Miss Namuri." Bubbles and Blossom thanked the woman, with the former doing so with a warm hug. Namuri was used to the blonde girl's affections and returned it. "It's quite all right, dear." With that said, they all leave Hosu Hospital. Back at Hosu Hospital, Recovery Girl remained on the premises long after her intern had left for the day. Her dedication to her work had her lingering to handle a few final check-ins and assist with rounds in the wards. While many of her colleagues preferred treating children, she found working with older patients more straightforward and, in her opinion, less of a hassle. She was meticulously reviewing the last-minute details of the patient reports, her seasoned eyes scanning each document with practiced efficiency. Despite the late hour, she was determined to complete her tasks before heading home, mindful of her responsibilities for the upcoming school day and the looming paperwork she needed to address for her intern. Recovery girl, her focus was abruptly interrupted when one of the staff nurses called out her name in an urgent tone. Startled, she looked up from her paperwork, her curiosity piqued by the urgency in the nurse's voice. "Yes, nurse, what is the problem?" she asked, her voice calm but alert. "Doctor, we need you in room 304, immediately. It concerns a patient who was presumed to be in critical care," the nurse explained, her urgency palpable. The word "presumed" caught recovery girl's attention, but she didn't dwell on it. She left her desk before swiftly following behind the nurse, her mind racing with concern as she navigated the hospital corridors. She was drawing close to her destination. "The patient is through here, Miss Recovery Girl." The nurse walked away, leaving the youthful hero to her duties. In front of the door, it was muffled with voices that she did not recognize. As Recovery Girl reached for the door knob, she entered and was met with a cacophony of worried voices and an unexpected sight: Tensei Ida, now upright and walking, even if a little unbalanced. The room was filled with concerned individuals, including a student she recognized. Relief and confusion mingled in her thoughts as she stepped inside, taking in the scene before her. The transformation of Ida from a critical state to stable and walking on his own 2 feet, was both bewildering and shocking. Tensei Ida's family, who had come for a visit, filled the room, their emotions a whirlwind of joy, concern, and confusion. His mother, her eyes glistening with tears of overwhelming happiness, was barely able to contain her emotions as she looked at her eldest son with such happiness, able to walk and not in so much pain. She tried to stifle her sobs, but they continually escaped her, turning into soft, choked cries as she took in the sight of her son walking, albeit a bit unsteadily. His father, visibly elated, was peppering the hospital staff with questions. His face was flushed with a mix of joy and anxiety as he asked, "Who performed this miracle? How is this possible? What exactly happened? Is my son finally able to walk now?" His hands fidgeted nervously, clutching at his wife's arm in an attempt to comfort her while seeking answers. Standing slightly apart was Tenya Ida, his face a mask of shock and regret. The sight of his brother, moving on his own, seemed to both astonish and guilt him. He could barely bring himself to meet Tensei's eyes, his own averted in a mix of awe and self-reproach. His hands were clenched at his sides, his posture rigid as he tried to process the miracle unfolding before him. Recovery Girl, her professional demeanor unwavering despite the initial shock, took control of the situation. Her voice cut through the chaos with practiced authority. "What on earth is going on here?" she demanded, her tone a blend of annoyance and professionalism that brought the raised voices to an abrupt halt. Her gaze swept over the scene, assessing the situation with keen eyes. Before the nurse on call could respond, Tensei Ida made his way unsteadily across the room to Recovery Girl. The effort it took for him to walk over was remarkable in itself, but what followed was even more unexpected. With a deep bow, Tensei lowered his head and addressed Recovery Girl with heartfelt gratitude. "I cannot begin to show my utmost gratitude for this blessing." "Thank you, Recovery Girl," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The sight of him bowing so deeply, especially after having just started walking again, was both surprising and poignant. Recovery Girl maintained her professional composure, though the gesture was undeniably moving. "Why yes, well, please sit down, while I look over you further." He quickly dismissed the bow, her focus shifting to the significant development at hand. "It's impressive that you're able to stand and walk already. I am equally intrigued about what could have brought this on," she remarked, her tone firm yet encouraging. She turned to the nurse in the room. "Nurse, please explain," she requested of her. She nodded. "Why yes, as I had already explained to the family, when I was tending to Mr. Ida's injuries, a few days back, he appeared to be healing nicely, but he was deemed paralyzed from the waist down. I have no prior knowledge of his advanced healing regime or the person who had done it," she properly explained, and Recovery Girl did not take long to properly examine the man. Or to have an idea of who actually did it. Well, it is too soon to fully say, not without further testing and a thorough examination. Recovery Girl took a sigh, but Tensei Ida looks to be no longer paralyzed, though I would dash, she was cut off before she could say more. The reaction was immediate. Tensei's mother let out a loud cry of joy, her tears flowing freely as she embraced her husband, who was now actively comforting her, as well as holding back his own joyful tears. The thought of their son being able to stand and walk was too much for them to handle without breaking down. Tenya remained in his spot, his expression a conflicted mix of awe, great joy, and guilt. He watched his brother from the corner of his eye, with a frozen look, unable to fully engage with the unfolding scene. Tensei, still struggling to hold back the fresh new tears, and even more so to talk, I can walk, he asked, his voice trembling with and astonishment and belief. I saw as someone a few nights ago, that caught the youthful hero's ears as well as the rest of the others. Recovery Girl hummed thoughtfully, gesturing him to continue. It was dark and I thought I was just drowsy from the medication, but I felt the sensation of a light shone on me, the energy pouring into me was strangely warm and comforting, and then I caught a glimpse of a white clothing. But I don't know who they were or why they did this. He then looked up, his face stained with tears, but I will forever be grateful to them. He flashed a big tear-stained smile. His voice finally broke, and he choked back tears, clearly moved by the turn of events. I am so glad, my family were here to see it. Recovery Girl nodded, her face thoughtful as she absorbed the details of Tensei's account. The room was filled with a mix of relief, joy, and an undercurrent of residual tension as the family continued to grapple with the miracle that had occurred. Recovery Girl, please. We must speak with the hero at this hospital who did this wonderful act. It was the husband who spoke up, trying his best to not crack his voice on speaking. Yes, let us discuss everything else outside. From the corner of her eye, she could see a person who needed to take his own medicine as well. Nurse, please inform the doctor tending to Tensei's case, that his patient will need a thorough neuromuscular examination. If the results are variable with my own, then he can take it from there. The nurse nodded and left. The parents and I will have a short chat. I leave you here with your brother. While we are gone, the youthful hero announced, not giving Tenya enough time to find a way out. The room remained a heavy silence, broken only by the subdued sounds of Tensei's breathing and Tenya's shuffling. It was as though the world had narrowed to just the two of them, the clamor of the outside and the voices of the other people fading into the background. Are you not happy that I am all right? Tensei's voice, cut through the heavy silence in the room. Tenya's eyes shot up, wide with shock. He stammered, trying to find his voice amidst the overwhelming rush of emotions. Tensei I. Because you haven't said a single word to me since you arrived and saw me walk. Actually, it was after I started walking, is when you completely closed away from me. So, tell me. Tensei's eyes turned to his brother, filled with pain and concern, bore into Tenya's own. Are you okay? Tenya's composure shattered. He sank to the floor, shaking uncontrollably, his voice breaking with every word. I am happy, brother. More than I can even say. But I can't even look at you. I don't feel worthy to. Tensei's brow furrowed, confusion replacing the initial hurt in his expression. What are you talking about? Tears started to stream down Tenya's face as he struggled to get his words out, his voice cracking under the weight of his guilt. I tried to get revenge on the hero killer, for what he did to you. I was so focused on that I didn't even notice he was about to kill another hero. It was like a raging storm came out. When Ida said that, I was so consumed by my anger that I didn't see the danger around me. My classmates had to come in time to save me. If they hadn't I might have. The words tumbled out of him, his sobs growing louder, each breath a gasp for air as he wrestled with his remorse. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Tensei's eyes were filled with a fierce, emotional storm. He shook his head in disbelief. You idiot. The cruel words cut Tenya deeper than any physical blow ever could. Before he could react, a powerful punch landed squarely in his stomach. The impact left him gasping, clutching his midsection as he struggled to catch his breath. "What the hell were you thinking?" Tensei's voice was a roar of frustration, his fists trembling with anger. "You tried to take down the hero killer alone. What were you doing?" Tenya could barely speak through his pain, looking away, his face flushed with shame. I was angry. I felt like I had to do something for you. If I didn't, you almost got yourself killed." Tensei's voice cracked, his fury interlaced with raw emotion. "And worse, you put your friends in danger too. I told you to stay away from that man. I know my mistake, brother. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Tenya's voice was a desperate plea, his eyes squeezed shut as he braced for another blow. But instead of another punch, he felt a strong grip on his arm. Tensei pulled Tenya into a tight embrace, his own body trembling with suppressed emotion. "You stupid," Tensei's voice was strained, barely above a whisper. "Don't you ever scare me like that again. I would never forgive myself if anything happened to you. I'd be lost without you." The sincerity and anguish in Tensei's words broke Tenya further. His tears flowed freely now, his body racked with sobs as he clung to his brother. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Tensei held him tighter, his own tears falling as he murmured into Tenya's hair, "You're my brother. I need you to be safe. I can't bear the thought of losing you. Please, just promise me you won't do something like that again." "I promise," Tenya choked out between sobs, his voice barely audible. "I promise." They stayed like that for a long while, enveloped in each other's warmth, the tears and anguish slowly giving way to a fragile sense of relief. Tenya was still guilt-ridden, but having his brother alive and well, before him. It made his past choices appear even more foolish now. After nearly an hour, Recovery Girl had managed to divert the parents' questions and requests to see and thank the hospital staff member who had healed their son. It was only after they finally complied the family could be quite stubborn that they left, with Tenya as well. Recovery Girl couldn't help but notice the boy's more relaxed demeanor and his prominent, red, puffy eyes. After dealing with the Ida family, Recovery Girl set off to make a phone call. The phone rang twice before the person on the other end finally picked up. "Chio, good afternoon. I hope there's no reason for concern." Nizu asked. "Just wanted to let you be the first to hear the news before it gets out tomorrow," she said calmly, knowing full well that the Chimera would have a field day. She understood that the principal had taken an interest in these three girls, she didn't know why, only that they seemed quite unique. And they were, in more ways than one. "I see." Sunday afternoon, at Midnight's house. The girls were all gathered in Blossom's room, working on their assignments and studying together. Blossom sat at her desk, her hair down, wearing a white t-shirt with a red heart on it, pink pajama pants, and fuzzy slippers. Buttercup, situated on the bed, wore a camouflage green shirt and black baggy shorts. Bubbles was seated on the floor, dressed in an ombre blue shirt and a pair of pink floral skirts. "Blossom, can you explain to me how to solve this math equation?" Bubbles asked, visibly frustrated by her work. Blossom stood up, and walked over to her sister and crouched down to better examine the problem. I see. Well, you need to use the distributive property first. Let's say you have an equation like 3x plus 4, 3x plus 4, 3x plus 4. You'll need to distribute the 3 to both terms inside the parentheses. So it becomes 3x plus 343 backslash dot x plus 3 backslash dot 43x plus 34, which simplifies to 3 times plus 123x plus 123 times plus 12. After that, you can combine like terms or solve for triple x if needed. Bubbles nodded thoughtfully, trying to wrap her head around the concept. Blossom continued, once you've done that, just follow the standard steps for solving equations, isolate the variable, combine like terms, and solve for triple x. Do you want to try solving one with me? Bubbles eagerly accepts the offer. Yes, please. The math here is so hard, she groaned in frustration. Blossom gave Bubbles a reassuring smile. It's not so hard, once you get the hang of it. She was met with the sound of blown raspberry from her other sister. Easy for you to say, Brainiac. This stuff is like child's play to you, Buttercup said as she rolled her eyes, looking away from her own studies. I wouldn't say that, Buttercup. If you need some help with your work, you know you could always ask, Blossom offered. She groaned. What I need is to take a break before these books become the death of me, she exclaimed dramatically, tossing the book away from her as she groaned into the pillow. I wouldn't mind a little rest too, my poor little head is aching, Bubbles added, holding her head as she feigned hurt. Blossom playfully sighed but looked over at the clock, seeing that it was 2:45 and realized that they had been studying for 3 hours straight. She turned to them. Okay. We do need a break, as even I as your own robot sister, need a recharge. Saying that, she shut her book, much to the excited cheers of her other 2 sisters. She stood up. Come on girls, I made a big batch of brownies and left them in the fridge. That ensued some surprised faces. When did you make brownies? And how come we didn't smell it? Oh please, girls. You two know how you are with chocolate. I couldn't risk you fiends, to even catch a whiff of it. That's why I cooled it down beforehand. She let out a puff of her ice breath to empathize her point. That was met with a glare and a pout from her sisters. As they made their way downstairs, the aroma of some rich chocolatey baked goods permeated the air. Blossom was a little bit surprised at a familiar smell coming from the kitchen. All too familiar as well. What the ah? The girls were shocked to see that Nemuri was at the dining table, helping herself to none other than the plate of brownies, remaining with only one in her hand. Nemuri was blissfully indulging on the chocolate morsels, unaware of the 3 pairs of eyes, bugging out at her. How could you? The collective scream, startled the R-rated hero, dropping the brownie to the plate. When she turned around, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Gee girls, what are you doing here? She did her level best to not crack under pressure. It was not panning out well. Well, we were going to take a break from studying, with some of the brownies I baked some while back. Blossom's tone was calm, which was more unnerving than Buttercup's growls, as they got dangerously louder. Oh, is that so? Well, I just thought these were dash. Get her. Buttercup declared, charging at their guardian with unbridled anger. Nemuri had no other choice. She leaped up away from the kitchen counter and attempted to evade the incoming onslaught. Blossom and Buttercup charged at Nemuri, their cries of outrage echoing through the kitchen. The scene turned into a comedic frenzy as Nemuri, with exaggerated agility, darted around the seating room, flipping chairs, and narrowly avoiding the wild swipes of her pursuers. Blossom tried to lasso her with a tablecloth, while Buttercup hurled cushions in a futile attempt to trap her. Nemuri's frantic zigzagging across the room included a series of slapstick maneuvers. She slipped on a stray napkin, slid under the dining table, and even narrowly avoided getting tangled in a curtain. As she slipped and slid, she occasionally let out desperate yelps of, "Please, let's talk this out, and, I promise I'll make it up to you." Buttercup finally managed to tackle Nemuri to the ground, pinning her face down with a satisfying crash, giving out an "thumph" sound. Blossom stood over them, her arms crossed, eyes blazing with a mix of fatigue, fierce determination and something akin to an enraged chocolate lover's aura. "Why the heck did you eat all our delicious brownies?" Buttercup demanded, her voice a thunderous growl as she pressed Nemuri's face into the floor. Nemuri, with her face squished against the ground, managed to mumble in between apologies, I am sorry. They were just so good. The texture was perfect, and the chocolate was so rich I couldn't help myself. And then I thought, just one more, and before I knew it, I was. Blossom, clearly agitated, clapped her hands together with a mock rumble of thunder. Her voice dropped unnaturally deep as she growled, "What happened?" The 2 on the floor froze in terror, their eyes wide. Nemuri's voice quivered as she explained at lightning speed, "I am so sorry but I couldn't stop. I just kept eating and eating, she gulped, her eyes darting nervously. Honestly, I blame you, Blossom. You made so many brownies, those 6 brownies tempting me, it was impossible to resist. Buttercup screeched in indignation, you ate all 6 brownies by yourself. Why, I oughta. Blossom, equally shocked, interjected, 6 brownies? No, I made a baker's dozen. The room fell silent. As everyone's ears perked up at the sound of a satisfied gulp coming from the kitchen counter. In disbelief, the 3 females turned to see Bubbles, casually polishing off the last brownie on a new plate, with a glass of milk. Bubbles, with a blissful smile, sorry, girls, all gone, finished off her treat and said nonchalantly, staring at her sisters. Bubbles. The 3 other ladies shouted in unison. Bubbles looked up, her cheeks full and her eyes innocent. What? I knew you were making brownies and waited till after you went to blow the smell away. I just had to bide my time and hide the rest. Guess the smell lingered too long and attracted Miss Namuri in. Namuri was standing there, looking mortified and strangely impressed at the girls' planning, no matter how devious it was. While Blossom sighed in defeat. You know what, I blame myself. There are 4 females in this house, and I made a batch of brownies. What did I expect? She slid a hand over her face in tiredness. Midnight interjected again, well, if it makes you feel any better, those brownies were some of the best I've ever had, and... She was cut off by the deathly stares from the red and raven-haired girls. Alright, I have no standing in this, huh, she mumbled, backing down. Suddenly, Blossom's phone buzzed, and she glanced down, her eyes widening. Girls, she said, her voice barely containing her surprise. Buttercup was now rummaging through the fridge, searching for any remaining chocolate, while Bubbles whimpered, nursing a blow to the head from Buttercup, step 1 of payback. What is it now? Buttercup grumbled, her voice muffled by the fridge door. Blossom's face lit up with a mix of surprise and joy. She just held up her phone to the others to read. They all turned their attention to read the message on her phone. In surprising news, our reporters have just informed me that the pro-hero, Ingenium, has said to have made a miraculous recovery and is presumed to be up and walking. It was found out that he was just discharged from the hospital and sources tell me us that he had recovered just yesterday. No one knows the nature of the quirk or medical professional residing at Hosu Hospital that was able to perform such a feat. More news to be brought, later. The room fell silent as the good news sunk in. Namuri was both overjoyed and confused at it, then she remembered of what was written, giving the hero a good idea of whose quirk was responsible. Her eyes, now laced with suspicion, glanced at Buttercup. She had a feeling that she had a hand in this, while Blossom and Bubbles shared a knowing look as well. All 3 females now had turned their gaze toward Buttercup, who was chomping on a large, leftover dark chocolate bar with a cocked eyebrow, what, expression. Midnight spoke up, hands on her peach and a quizzical look on her face. Do you have anything you wish to say, young lady? Buttercup looked from Namuri to her sisters, then shrugged nonchalantly. Meh, don't you just love the media and its work ethic, she said, trying to appear unfazed, and quickly dashed away. UA. It was the first day back at school after the week of internships, and the Powerpuff girls arrived slightly earlier than the rest of their classmates. They were called in to have a meeting with Nizu about the recent stain incident, and reveal any more things that may be of use. In the office, seated on the plush couch in Nizu's office, the girls waited, each with a cup of freshly poured tea before them. The warm, inviting aroma of the tea filled the room, a small comfort amidst the gravity of their meeting. Nizu entered the room with his usual calm demeanor. His round face bore a gentle smile as he finally sat down to address the group. Good morning, girls, pardon my lateness. He took a sip before he spoke again. Please, do start from the beginning. I want to understand everything that happened from your perspective. He took another short sip, before placing it down to listen. Blossom began recounting her battle with Stain, who was possessed by him, and the trouble he had caused. She noted that Stain seemed to recognize him, but from the way he fought for control over his own body, it was clear that their relationship was far from amicable. Nizu paid close attention to everything his student had to say, his usual calm and calculated face on. If he was feeling anxious or worried, his poker face did not give any interpretation of it. As Blossom concluded her recount, Nizu had already finished his third cup of tea. He took a short break, and placed his cup down with a thoughtful expression. Very interesting, girls. This situation is quite distressing, to say the least. The level of danger you've described regarding this entity is quite unnerving. May I ask, what do you believe his next plan or his end goal might be? Honestly, sir, we don't know. Him has always been one for tricks and causing chaos wherever he goes, Blossom explained. Really? Nizu said, curious at this. Yeah, the sorry excuse of a clown, likes to mess with us on a monthly basis, Buttercup added, with distaste, the freak is an absolute pain. It's true, he has caused so many problems for us, or the citizens of Townsville, Bubbles also added. Nizu hummed thoughtfully. I see, if this being is as dangerous as you make him out to be, then this might be a little direr than I first thought. Hearing that, the next matter popped up. Does this mean we can be allowed to fight and use our powers now? The way Buttercup phrased it, was more so like a demand than a request. It was not lost on her two sisters and Nizu himself. Buttercup, Blossom said, trying to diffuse it. Sadly, no, Miss Buttercup, Nizu plainly said. Why not? Buttercup grumbled. Yes, Mr. Nizu. Why can't we handle the situation, seeing as you said that the situation seemed dire to you? Bubbles also interjected. Bubbles. Nizu looked at them with a plain expression. Whether I believe the matter is dire or not, is not up to me to allow you to fight without a hero license. I am sorry girls, but you will still have to take the same road as everybody else. Those are the laws placed on our society to make it balanced, Nizu said with utmost distaste, knowing fully well the so-called laws issued. Well, that's stupid, Buttercup muttered out, crossed arms. Blossom and Bubbles were just silently lowering their heads. I appreciate you girls sharing this with me. Based on the information you've provided, I will keep a close watch on the situation. At the moment, it's the best course of action. Nothing has come up and no one has reported any strange occurrences at the very moment to suggest it to be him. If I were to involve the Hero Commission, they might either dismiss it as utter nonsense or initiate an investigation that could inadvertently lead back to you three, taking a more sympathetic tone. Therefore, I will conduct my own investigation and determine the next course of action. Nizu's tone was serious yet reassuring. The girls looked like they wanted to argue, but understood the gravity of it all, even it was seemingly ridiculous, but they just nodded and proceeded to walk off, until Nizu spoke up. And Buttercup, that caught the raven-haired girl's attention. Recovery Girl would like a word with you, sometime after school, taking into account of yesterday's little expose. Though I must say, that was very commendable on your part, markings of a great hero, to say the least, he said with a small smile behind his teacup. Buttercup's frustration seemed to ease a bit, if barely at those words. Yeah, sure thanks, and with that, they left. As they closed the door behind them, the room was once again quiet and that left Nizu to contemplate the girls' words and their worries about the whole thing. He honestly couldn't help but feel a little bit perplexed at the challenge before him. He knew from day one of meeting these girls, that their story was highly plausible, but after the explanations they gave and the news about the hero killer's psychotic breakdown after his attack, the whole thing seemed much more unnerving to seem real, at the least. Pouring himself another cup, he began to think, what would be my first move then, he muttered to himself. The girls, after shortly leaving the principal's office, realized they had some time before school had to officially start and they took this time to hang around a corner and review on the little conversation they had. I still can't believe he won't allow us to fight crime, Bubbles said, pouting at the situation. It's just bull, what it is, Buttercup said bitterly. Girls, he is just the principal and not connected to the Hero Commission directly, she reasoned. We can't really expect Principal Nizu to pull some strings for us, just because of him, can we? Blossom asked pointedly. Buttercup wasn't buying that. It is entirely because of him, that we have to get some leeway, she replied angrily. Why can't we do our own crime fighting, track him down and dash? And what, Buttercup? Need I remind you that we don't know where he is, and if we went on a search to track down him, we would have the entire country's heroes and laws, breathing down our neck, Blossom argued back. We could take them, Buttercup declared, turning her head away. Whether we can, is not really the question. It's if we go against the laws here, will we end up on the other side of it? I don't think having the heroes and or government as our enemies is worth it, Bubbles added. She didn't like waiting around and letting him seek them out also, but patience was needed. Blossom nodded in agreement. Bubbles is right. She turned her gaze towards Buttercup. I know that this is frustrating, but we can't break the laws here, or else we will be labeled as criminals and have people after us, Blossom added. It sucks, but she's right, Buttercup. We don't even know where him is and what he's planning. All we know is that he might be off planning his next act, Bubbles reasoned, and that made Buttercup quell her frustration, if only by half. Fine, she conceded, but I still don't like it, she firmly stated. We know, Buttercup, Bubbles said, placing a comforting arm on her sister's shoulder, offering a small smile. But just like saving the day, we won't always find joy in doing these things. Now come on, girls. If we rush now, we can be the first ones in class, Blossom said, enthusiastically walking away. That garnered the two other sisters to look at each other, before rolling their eyes. Nerd, they both said, as they left to catch up to their sister. Unbeknownst to them, a certain figure was just around the corner, walking away. When the girls arrived, it didn't take long before many of their classmates started to trickle in. By then many were talking about their time at their respective internships, recounting their favorite moments and best experiences, while others had other things to say. Ha 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 ha. Zero and Buttercup howled with laughter as they took in Bakugou's new hairstyle. Buttercup nearly fell over from the sheer amusement. Really? Really, Bakugou? Zero pointed at his head, still laughing uncontrollably. Stop laughing. Bakugou snarled at the two. It stuck like this, even after a good washing. He raised his hand, crackles flaring above his palm. Keep it up, and I'll blow the two of you to bits. His rage was palpable, his face flushed red as he seethed over the ridiculous hairstyle Best Jeanist had inflicted upon him. You can try, boom boom baby. But that haircut will have me in stitches before you can even think of laying a hand on me, Buttercup remarked through her hearty laughter. Look at that hair. It's a perfect 2:8 ratio part. Zero banged on the desk beside him, his laughter shaking the room. You two are dead. Bakugou lunged at the two, but Buttercup evaded easily, causing the ash blonde's hair seem to explode, in rage, as it returned to its normal style. It changed back. Bwahahaha. Zero nearly bust a gut, even as Bakugou roughly held on to him. Buttercup just walked away, not wanting to clobber the guy, so early in the morning it was tempting though. Come back here. Bakugou growled, but was effectively ignored. On the other side of the room, Mina, Jiro, and Tsuyu were engaged in a more subdued conversation, unaffected by the ruckus. Wow! You got to face real villains. Mina gushed, eyes wide with excitement as Jiro recounted her experience at Death Arms Agency. I'm so jealous. All my patrols have been completely uneventful. It was mostly just evacuation procedures and logistical support. No real fighting, Jiro shrugged, idly winding one of her jacks around her index finger. That's still amazing. Mina bounced a little in place. It was just training and patrol for me, Tsuyu added thoughtfully, resting her index finger on her chin. Though we did catch some foreign smugglers once. I only contributed a little, though. That's incredible. Mina and Jiro exchanged wide-eyed looks of awe. At the back of the room, Bubbles was catching up with Kuda. Wow, Kuda. Those bracelets are so cute. Bubbles exclaimed, admiring the multicolored, fancy accessories Kuda was holding out. It's nothing special, Kuda said, a blush creeping onto his cheeks. After the internship, my mum had come up with the idea to get these bracelets. They're laced with specific animal DNA I need, just a way to keep in contact with animals in emergencies. It's like a friendship bracelet made with animal fur and stuff. It must sound a little weird, huh? He said quite sheepishly, thinking it was. Bubbles' eyes sparkled with excitement as she shook her head, her bright smile widening. Wow, Kuda, that's amazing. It's not so weird at all. I actually think it's much easier and way better than holding sample pouches with their fur. It's like having little animal buddies with you all the time. The bracelets might look quirky, but they're super special and clever. I think it's adorable and totally awesome. Kuda's cheeks turned a deeper shade of red as he scratched the back of his head, looking a bit flustered but pleased. Actually, I hadn't thought of it that way, he said with a shy smile. Thanks, Bubbles. I'm glad you think they're cool. He then brightened, shifting the topic. Also, tell me about your internship. How was working with Gang Orca? Bubbles' eyes sparkled as she giggled. It was amazing. Gang Orca is really nice, people think he's scary, but I see him as a big old softie. I learned a ton about handling tough situations and teamwork. He's super supportive and gave me great advice. It was an awesome experience. She beamed, excited to share. At the back, Momo, Kirishima, and Blossom were animatedly discussing their internship experiences with Fat Gum. They were within earshot of Todoroki, Ida, and Izuku, who were having their own conversation. You should have been there, Kirishima said, grinning. Fat Gum's training was intense, but it really pushed us to our limits. I learned so much. Momo nodded in agreement. Absolutely. Fat Gum's approach was unique, and his support really helped us. We had a chance to handle some real emergencies, and it was eye-opening. Blossom's eyes sparkled with genuine interest. That sounds amazing. I interned under Edge Shot, and it was a whole different experience. The hero isn't called the ninja hero for nothing, his precision and stealth in both teaching and fighting were incredible. Kirishima's eyes lit up with playful curiosity. Oh yeah? So, are you like a ninja now or what? Will you demonstrate some of your moves? Blossom rolled her eyes with a smirk. Maybe. You'll just have to wait and see. And technically, I'd be called a kunoichi, she added with a mischievous grin. Kirishima laughed. I'll be keeping an eye out for any ninja moves. The conversation shifted as Momo and Kirishima turned their attention back to Blossom. Speaking of your experiences, Momo began, we heard about the hero killer incident. That must have been terrifying. Blossom's smile dimmed slightly, but she nodded. It was, but it worked out in the end. Edge Shot and Endeavor were incredible in that situation. I'm grateful for their help and support. Kirishima nodded, oh man, that must have really sucked. I do doubt that you were not able to handle yourself though, Blossom, he said with a comforting smile at Blossom, making her nerves slowly disappear at the sight. But I'm really glad Edge Shot and Endeavor were there to help you guys, though, he added. Yeah, that's right, they were crucial in saving us, Todoroki mumbled an affirmative, for which Ida and Izuku could hear it. At the mention of the hero killer stain, Ida's face grew somber. He reflected on the recent events and the chaos that ensued, feeling a heavy responsibility for the pain it may have caused his brother and the burden he had placed on his family. His thoughts were weighed down by guilt over the confrontation and its aftermath. Sensing the shift in mood, Momo decided to steer the conversation toward a more positive direction. Oh Ida, I heard the news about your brother's miraculous recovery. It must be such a relief for you and your family to see him doing well. I'm really happy for you. Ida's expression softened, and he glanced at his injured left hand. Yes, it's a mix of joy and guilt, watching him recover. I'm deeply grateful to those who helped him, he said thoughtfully. Reflecting on everything now, with Tensei able to continue being a hero, I realized that seeking revenge was not the path of a true hero. He sighed, I'm also thankful for my friends and classmates who were there when it mattered most, he added, giving a brief, appreciative glance at the group around him. Blossom noticed this and inwardly smiled. I vowed to dedicate my life to ensuring no one else faces what I did. A hero's duty is to protect and uplift others, not to pursue personal vendettas, he declared with his usual earnestness, his voice taking on a dramatic tone. I will strive to be a hero who defends and saves, not one who lets revenge cloud my judgment, he said, chopping the air with conviction. Oh great, he's back to normal, Jiraiya remarked offhandedly. Did he ever really leave? Kaminari asked. Blossom, Izuku, and Todoroki listened with a mix of cringe and admiration. They understood the weight of Ida's words and the seriousness of his resolve. Your commitment is admirable, Ida, Blossom said sincerely. It's clear that you've learned from this experience. Kirishima nodded in agreement. Yeah, you all have. It's part of what makes us stronger as heroes. Izuku felt a swell of pride for his fellow classmate. His attention then shifted to the raven-haired girl at the desk behind his. Buttercup was deep in conversation with Tokoyami and Shoji, likely sharing their own internship experiences. Izuku slipped away, wanting to converse with her, approaching her with a warm smile. Hey, Budash, he was cut off. Deku. Midoriya turned at the sound of his name, startled as Uraraka bounded over with a bright smile. Oh, you Uraraka. Hi. I heard what happened, Uraraka said, her eyes filled with concern and warmth. I'm so glad you're feeling better. Here, she added, pulling out an envelope from her bag and handing it to him. It's a get-well card I made. I couldn't get it to you in time at the hospital, but I hope you still like it. Midoriya took the card, looking up at Uraraka's beaming face. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Uraraka's smile widened even more, and she giggled softly. You're welcome. I'm just glad you're okay. She quickly said before heading back to her side of the room, leaving Midoriya with a warm lump in his throat. As Uraraka glanced at Buttercup, who was observing the exchange, she plastered on a strained smile that seemed too forced to be genuine. Buttercup quirked an eyebrow, wondering, what's up with her, but shrugged it off as just a momentary weirdness. After this brief interruption, Midoriya found himself unable to approach Buttercup as Aizawa suddenly walked in and signaled for everyone to quiet down, as was his usual method. Class began, and Aizawa launched into one of his typical lectures. Fortunately for the students, the lecture lasted only 40 minutes before Aizawa announced that they would be preparing for another hero training exercise. You can all go and change into your hero outfits now, Aizawa announced before leaving. All Might will be waiting for you at the Ground Gamma training facility. Ah yeah, training with All Might again. Kirishima yelled, his excitement palpable. I wonder what we will be doing today. Tsu thoughtfully asked herself. Yay, costume change. Bubbles exclaimed, practically bouncing with enthusiasm. Ground Gamma. After changing into their hero costumes, the students made their way toward the Ground Gamma training facility. I am here. All Might's voice boomed as he appeared before Class 1A, standing proudly before the walled-off training field. And the reason for that is your foundational heroics training. He struck his signature pose with his fists on his hips and a wide smile. It's been a while, boys and girls. How is everyone? I can't get over his Golden Age costume, Izuku said, his eyes sparkling with admiration. Bubbles, too, was taking in the vintage suit with awe. Now, listen up. All Might continued, holding up his right hand with his index finger pointing skyward. As an immediate follow-up to your internships, today's activity is going to test you on that. His grin widened. A rescue training race. A what? Class 1A asked in unison, their curiosity piqued. That's right. I will be a helpless civilian at the center of this complex. Your job is to get to me and rescue me. And to make it interesting, you'll be competing against one another. A rescue race, huh? Bubbles said thoughtfully. Sweet. I'm always down for a challenge. Buttercup cheered, her enthusiasm evident. Blossom's hand shot into the air. Shouldn't rescue training be performed at the USJ, sir? That place is for disaster rescue training, in particular, young Kayama, All Might shook his head. But recall what I said, it's a race. This is Field Gamma, he threw his arms wide to introduce the training ground. It's a dense spread of factories that wind together to form an intricate network of maze-like alleys. For this exercise, you'll all be splitting into 4 teams of 5 members and going through it one team at a time. Seeing that all of them understood, All Might nodded and continued with the explanation of the exercise. I'll send up a distress signal from somewhere inside, and you will all start at the edge of the field in randomly selected locations. It's a race to see who can reach and rescue me first. I see, this will really test our mobility, Izuku said thoughtfully. But try to keep the property damage to a minimum, All Might reminded, looking over at Bakugou and pointing to Buttercup. Why are you looking at me? Bakugou grumbled. Alright, buff guy. Game on, Buttercup muttered to herself, a scowl present. Alright, now to randomly select the first group and their entry points to Field Gamma, All Might pulled out a tablet and flipped it around to show the screen to the students. A list of names rolled past the screen like a slot machine for a second before they stopped. Group 1 will consist of Shiro, Ashido, Ida, Buttercup Kayama, and Midoriya. Please head to the location beside your name and we'll begin shortly. Yes, sir, the 5 students stepped forward. Once you get the signal you may begin. All Might instructed before leaping from the ground and into the middle of Field Gamma in one move. While the 5 students of Group 1 made their way towards their designated starting positions. The rest of the class was sat up on a raised platform with a large screen and speakers. The screen was divided into 5 perspectives, each one following one of the students. Everyone here has great mobility, but Kaminari paused, glancing at the others. Anyone have a sure win? I would say that Shiro has a better advantage, judging by the skill use of his quirk, Momo commented. I think Mina has a good shot, she is quite athletic, Toru chimed in. Though, I believe we are overlooking a clear-cut winner, Todoroki stoically said. Sue hummed, true, I would say that Buttercup has this in the bag. She can easily fly across. Yeah, but I find that strange that she could fly all this time. Gyro paused, and turned to Blossom and Bubbles. Can you two also fly? She asked curiously. Everyone was now staring at the other 2 sisters, who were finding this amusing. That's for us to know and you to find out, silly, Bubbles playfully said, much to the groans of the others. I am going to choose Izuku, Blossom added. Not going to root for your sister, Blossom? Kirishima asked, but someone else replied. Bakugou tched, obviously the flame-haired fodder knows her and her sisters are not all that, not paying any mind to the death glare he was receiving from Blossom. Who you calling, fodder, you? Luckily Bubbles was there to calm her down. Why yeah, Uraraka just sweat-dropped at that and focused forward. I think I will be rooting for either Deku or Ida. They all turned back to the screen, just when it was going to start. As each of the students were positioned at their starting point, they all waited for the timer to go off. Midoriya looked over to where his classmates were, and his focus locked back onto the goal before him. Each one of them is very capable of completing this race. I will have to be fast and agile in this challenge. He then could make out the place where Buttercup was situated and knew the bigger challenge ahead. Located at her starting point, Buttercup was getting ready for the little challenge ahead, a big grin on her face. Alright, Green Bean, standing at the ready, let's do this. Start. At the sound of All Might's booming voice, all 5 students took off in the same direction. Shiro launched his tape high, anchoring it to one of the numerous pipes scattered across the field. Retracting the tape, he propelled himself into the air, soaring above the obstacles, feeling all the more confident in his abilities and speed. Meanwhile, Mina executed impressive parkour across the intricate network of pipes, buildings, and ductwork. With a confident grin, she leapt towards a flat wall. Producing a thick, viscous acid from her hands and through her special shoes, she adhered to the wall and swiftly climbed up its surface. Resuming her parkour across the rooftops, "Can't stop me." Mina's eyes were fixed on the roof where she suspected All Might was waiting. Her laughter echoed as she skillfully maneuvered through the challenging terrain, reveling in her unstoppable progress. Ida was doing his best to navigate the turns and corners of the maze-like area, but time was not on his side. Even with the nature of his quirk, he could not manage to maneuver as precisely as he needed to get through the turns. Many were impressed by the three students displaying their skills. "Wow, Mina is really doing parkour. She's doing great." Toru pointed to Mina's screen. "Our classmates are quite skilled in their own right, I must say," Momo stated. "I kind of feel bad for Ida, not exactly in his element, is he?" Tsu pointed out. Uraraka nodded. "Well, the others are taking the high ground approach, though I wonder how Deku is dash," she was interrupted. "Whoa! Look at those two," the screen immediately displayed the other two. Izuku and Buttercup were both bursting across the facility, dashing and flipping over the obstacles, as if they weren't even there. Izuku was propelling himself forward with a combination of raw speed and precise control, one for all coursing through his body, his legs firing off powerful bursts of energy as he does his level best to catch up to his opponent. Buttercup was zipping forward, while giving a small distance for the boy to try and catch up. She alternated between flight and using her momentum to launch herself forward, obviously teasing the guy. "I am going to win, Buttercup," Izuku declared with a determined grin. Never losing focus. Buttercup glanced back with her own playful grin, "Try catching up first, green bean," and increased her speed to put even more distance. Izuku just took the challenge and tried to steadily increase his power output. Everyone who was watching was quick to comment on the little competitive turn the race took. "Those two definitely have a competitive streak," Momo observed, her eyes following the intense duel on the screen. Toru nodded in agreement, her voice filled with excitement. "You can obviously see the chemistry between those two, so cute," she squealed. Bubbles, hearing that, could not help but giggle at the idea. "I think so too, they are quite adorable," she said. I wouldn't go so far as to say that," Uraraka dryly laughed, but turned her attention at the screen. "But it is clear Deku has been working hard at his internship," she said, her normal cheery tone back. "Who cares about that?" Bakugou growled at the lot. "That little weasel is using my moves to get past obstacles," he muttered to himself, as he glared at the screen. All Might observed the race with a keen eye, his gaze lingering on his successor. Despite the impressive display, there was a subtle disappointment in his expression. The enthusiasm of the race seemed to overshadow the seriousness of the challenge, and All Might felt a pang of unease seeing his protégé seemingly not pushing himself as he usually did, seemingly more absorbed in the playful competition with Buttercup rather than the race's true demands. As the competitors drew closer to the finish line, their rivalry was palpable. Buttercup alternated between graceful, soaring flights and rapid ground-based sprints, her laughter echoing as she skillfully evaded Izuku's advances. Izuku, with energy visibly surging through his legs, pushed forward with intense focus, striving to close the gap between himself and Buttercup. "There it is," he thought to himself, seeing the meeting point ahead. Izuku grew even more confident and pushed even harder. He soon overtook Buttercup, surprising her with his sudden surge. Just as he was about to declare victory, "Yes, I'm going to W dash," he was cut off mid-sentence. Slipping off a ledge, he fell. "Whoa! Izuku just fell!" Toru exclaimed. "He was so close to winning." Momo added, her eyes wide. "No, Deku!" Uraraka cried out, covering her mouth in shock. "Ah!" Izuku braced himself for impact, closing his eyes in anticipation of the fall, but he didn't feel any impact. Opening his eyes, he was astonished to find himself flying in the air, but more so cradled bridal style by a smirking Buttercup. You really need to watch your step, Green Bean, Buttercup teased. Izuku squealed, as his face turned a deep shade of red, both from embarrassment and the unexpected position. Buttercup gave another amused but playful smile. She then saw the others approaching and quickly flew over to the finish line, maintaining her first-place position, and set Izuku down gently to get second. Shiro soon followed, landing next and commenting with a hint of frustration. "Man, I'm third place," Shiro said, shaking his head. "Dang it!" Mina shouted from her position, clearly disappointed. A few moments later, Ida arrived, his face downcast as he took in his last-place finish. He sighed deeply, visibly disheartened. "Yahoo, first place, baby." Buttercup, still buoyant from her victory, cheered and celebrated. Izuku, now less red but still awkward, tried to hide his flushed face, stood nearby, happy for his friend. All Might, who was a little bit stunned, cleared his throat, his signature smile lighting up his face. "Congratulations to everyone on a great performance," he turned his attention to the winner, "and I must say, Buttercup Kayama, you seem to have managed to save two people during the race, instead the one, laughing a bit at his own joke." Izuku chuckled nervously at the comment, while Buttercup hollered with triumph. "You got that right, Muscles," she shouted, reveling in her win. All Might flinched slightly but quickly recovered, forcing a grin. "Right, well, let's move on to the next group." Blossom sighed, hand over her chest. "Honestly, I was on the edge of my seat there," she smiled, lucky that Buttercup acted as she did. "OMG, like yeah. I was so worried for Izuku," Bubbles worriedly said. Blossom looked over her sister. "I can see that, and so does Kuta, who might I say, you are squeezing his arm too hard," she plainly pointed out. Bubbles squeaked looking at her friend's arm and then her friend, seeing she was indeed hurting him. Sorry Kuta," she comforted the bug guy. "It's okay, Bubbles," just waved her off, trying not to worry her. "Man, that was one heck of a race," Kirishima exclaimed. Tokoyami nodded. "Yes, it was quite a heart-stopper, if I may say." "Did you see the way they were? It was like so cute," Toru squealed at the screen. Some were not too keen on the idea, but there was no time for a rebuttal. "The next group will be Bubbles Kayama, Bakugou, Blossom Kayama, Tsuyu Azui, and Kaminari." Hearing that, Bubbles stood up. "Come on Blossom, let's go have some fun," she cheered eagerly, pulling on her older sister's arm. "Bubbles, it's a training race, not a GHH, she didn't get to finish before being yanked." "A race against them? How am I supposed to do that?" Kaminari whined out. The five then left, and in came the previous competitors. Mina, Shiro had already caught up with the rest of their squad, leaving Ida, Izuku and Buttercup to come in slowly. Ida was a few feet behind Izuku and Buttercup. The girl was trying to her level best, to calm down a still embarrassed Izuku. "Come on Green Bean, you still can't be moping about the whole saving your butt thing, are ya?" she asked incredulously. "And no, not exactly. I am thankful for you saving me. It's just I feel so stupid for making that mistake, in front of everyone and All Might," Izuku groaned into his hands. She patted the boy's back. Izuku dash. "Hey, Deku," in came Uraraka, bouncing over to the duo. For a brief moment, her bubbly smile faltered to a somewhat strained one, upon looking at Buttercup but quickly resolved back the moment she saw Izuku, though it was not lost on the green-themed Powerpuff. "Congratulations on coming in second place," she said. He scratched the back of his head. Thanks, Uraraka could have done better though," he said. She giggled. "Oh well, next time. Maybe you won't miss the ledge in front of you, right?" she said. "Why yeah, right," he said. Uraraka then pulled him and a now caught up Ida, over to view the screen. Buttercup just rolled her eyes. "Okay, weird," she then made her way over to view the screen. Start. With the signal, the next 5 students took off with varied yet impressive strategies. Bakugou roared, "Out of my way, losers, as he exploded forward, launching himself from building to building. Each powerful burst from his hands propelled him further, his fierce competitiveness evident in every explosion. Tsuyu crouched low, her legs tensed and ready. In an instant, she leapt into the air, soaring high enough to land atop a multi-story factory. With another agile bound, she set off in the direction of the signal, her movements quick and efficient. Blossom and Bubbles began with their unique abilities. Blossom's aura glowed as she took off from the edge of the factory roof. She moved with swift and focused pace, her form slicing through the air as if she was gliding effortlessly over the maze of towering structures below. Meanwhile, Bubbles, her aura also glowing brightly, ran to the edge of a nearby building and made a powerful jump. She landed safely on the next structure and continued with a high-speed skipping motion, her light and buoyant movements rapidly closing the distance. While those four rushed forward, Kaminari could only run onto whatever they could. "This sucks." Kaminari cried out in frustration, trying to balance on top of a skinny rail. Bakugou jumped off another rooftop, blasting himself forward before flipping and kicking off an AC unit and rocketing forward again. He looked to the side and saw Blossom quickly gaining on him, gritting his teeth and increasing the size of his blasts. "No way you're catching up, fodder," he yelled out and launched up and over a sign. Blossom glared at hearing that and with added motivation, picked up her speed, and took to flying past the explosive quirk user, leaving him in her fading pink trail. "Huh? No way," he exclaimed, wide-eyed. He rushed to catch up to her but was too late, she had already won and landed on the rooftop. Bakugou followed a few minutes later, landing with a thud. Next came Bubbles, and finally, Tsu. "We have ourselves a winner," All Might declared, addressing the first to arrive. "Good job, Kayama. That was excellent racing." "Thanks, sir," she replied respectfully, barely out of breath. The other two girls walked up to her. Tsu approached, saying, "Congrats, Blossom. That was impressive. Looks like you've answered Jairu's earlier question." "Karo." Blossom smiled, but then turned her head toward the source of an animalistic growl. Bakugou stomped over, his face a mask of rage. He glared at Blossom with contempt and bared his teeth. "That was BS, he spat. "I refuse to lose again to another one of you flashy, overconfident girls who think their quirks make them better than everyone else. I demand a rematch." Blossom's eyes narrowed as she met his gaze with cool composure. All Might attempted to defuse the tension. "Alright, young Bakugou, it's just a..." Bakugou cut him off, his voice dripping with hostility. "You think you're so much better just because you won this time? This doesn't mean anything." Blossom maintained her cool, responding, "No one said anything about being better than you. If you're so upset, maybe you should focus on improving instead of blaming others." She raised an eyebrow, adding with a hint of sarcasm, "But I guess I'm not so bad for being a so-called fodder, after all, huh?" Bakugou snarled, his fists clenching at his sides. He turned on his heel and stormed away, leaving the rooftop in a fit of fury. All Might cleared his throat. All right, everyone, let's move on to the next group. Congratulations again, and well done to all the competitors." Meanwhile, the next 5 competitors prepared to head up. Buttercup, lounging casually next to the friendly giant, remarked with annoyance, "Sheesh, that guy has some serious issues." Kuda nodded in agreement, his expression reflecting his own disapproval. Girls' locker room. After the final races wrapped up, the students were back in the locker rooms, changing out of their costumes. Some were still buzzing with excitement from testing their speed, while others were feeling down, especially those whose quirks didn't give them an advantage. "I have to say, being invisible doesn't always have its perks," Toru grumbled as she slipped into her school uniform. Jairu sighed in agreement. "Yeah, at least this test shows us what we need to work on." Momo nodded. "Exactly. When I interned with Fat Gum, he always reminded Kirishima and me to focus on our physical training, not just our quirks." Tsu turned to the others. You three were really impressive today. I even had trouble keeping up with Bubbles, jumping from one building to the next, she said with a smile. Oh, thanks, Sue. I just love skipping around, Bubbles replied, now fully dressed. Jiru chuckled. I have to say, Blossom really gave Bakugou a run for his money. He definitely wasn't happy about losing. Yeah, but I would say that you shouldn't provoke him like that, he didn't seem like in the mood, Mina said with a smile. Blossom, tying her hair with a red bow, shrugged. Well, we can't always win. And I don't back down from people who can't control their tempers. He was a real pain. Sue turned to Buttercup. But I have to ask, Buttercup, she said, catching everyone's attention, you clearly could have won the race, early on, but why did you toy with Izuku like that? Buttercup shrugged casually. I just wanted to have fun and a good race with him. He didn't disappoint and it gave him a chance to push himself a bit more. I was actually sure he would have won if he hadn't been so klutzy at that edge, she chuckled a bit, thinking that. Toru and Bubbles giggled at that. What? What's so funny? Buttercup asked, a bit puzzled. Oh, nothing, Toru said with a playful grin. It was just cute how you carried him in your arms like that. Buttercup rolled her eyes, but a small smile tugged at her lips, which she quickly suppressed. Uraraka, who had been quietly packing up, couldn't help but feel a pang of discomfort at the giggles and the implications behind them. 3 hours later. As the sun began setting in the sky, Midoriya sat in the small room facing All Might in his deflated form. The smile he wore when he entered had faded as he listened to his mentor and idol. Summoned for a private meeting, he never expected to hear the revelations that followed. Toshinori, his expression grim, shared what he had learned from a recent investigation. The DNA from the arms left behind by the defeated Nomu revealed that it was a bioengineered creature, once human but enhanced beyond recognition. The quirks it possessed were artificially implanted. The implications were chilling. There was only one person who came to mind, the one responsible for the terror gripping Japan. Midoriya swallowed hard as Toshinori delivered the horrifying truth. This man he. Yes, Toshinori said, his voice heavy with memories of pain and loss, as he remembered that man's cold voice, his laugh as he took away someone precious to him. He is the one who killed my MSTR, the previous holder of One for All. He can steal quirks and either use them himself or bestow them upon his subordinates. His name is All for One. All for One. Midoriya's hands trembled as he absorbed the weight of the revelation. To think that this man, who had matched All Might at his peak and now was manipulating the League of Villains, was not only alive but orchestrating chaos from the shadows was terrifying. What are we going to do now? Midoriya asked, his voice wavering as Toshinori moved to the window, gazing out at the twilight. What is the plan? Toshinori turned back to him, his eyes filled with a grave seriousness. There's no telling what his next move will be. He's already sent Shigaraki after me, either to kill me or test my limits. The Nomu attacks, the fear he spreads, this is only the beginning. You must understand this, you may one day have to face him yourself. Midoriya's resolve hardened, but Toshinori's next words cut through his determination. Midoriya, you've been improving, and I've seen your growth. But this is not a game. Your performance in the rescue race showed potential, but also revealed weaknesses. If you truly wish to stand a chance against All for One, you must commit fully. Being a hero isn't just about strength, it's about a relentless drive to go plus ultra. This path won't be easy, and your dreams of reaching the top will require far more than just longing. It demands sacrifice, unwavering dedication, and the strength to face what lies ahead without hesitation. If you're not ready to face that truth, if you're not willing to confront your own weaknesses and truly commit, then you have no chance of standing against All for One. Midoriya's gaze dropped, the weight of Toshinori's words sinking in. He thought of his mother, his friends, and all he had yet to achieve. He clenched his fists, resolute. All right then, Midoriya said, rising to his feet, his expression set with a new determination. I will do whatever it takes. I will be ready when he shows up. I won't let him hurt anyone else, and I won't let you down. I'm ready to go plus ultra. Toshinori nodded at the boy's determination, seeing he would do whatever he could. However, inside he felt a sharp pain running through his chest. Young Midoriya, you will become something great. But can you be ready in time for when that evil arrives? And the hero's heart ached, not wanting to tell the truth to him. Can you do it without me? By that time I may not be by your side any longer. It was close to 8 in the morning, and the sun's light filtered through the curtains, casting a gentle glow over the room. The rays tickled Bubbles' eyelids, coaxing her from sleep. She stirred, not much of a morning person, but decided to get up nonetheless. Sitting upright, a yawn escaped her lips as she rubbed the sleep from her eyes. Once she managed to clear the last remnants of slumber, a small smile crept across her face as she took in her room. It had been a few months since she and her sisters had arrived in this world, and though it hadn't been easy, she was at times grateful to wake up to a peaceful morning, away from monster attack calls. Her bed, covered with a blue pastel-colored bedspread, housed some stuffed animals she had grown fond of. While they could never replace a very special doll she once had, they still brought her joy. Right, she yawned again, let's get on with the day. With that, she slipped off the bed, leaving a slight ruffle in the covers behind. Dressed in her light blue nightgown, adorned with delicate sleeves trailing softly behind her, and with her hair tied back in a nightcap, she made her way over to the closet. Opening it, she peered at her options, contemplating what outfit to choose for the day ahead. She hummed to herself, let's see what we have. Downstairs, the kitchen buzzed with activity, or rather, Blossom was busy in the kitchen. Cleaned and dressed in her morning wear, a pink and white t-shirt and a denim knee-length skirt adorned with pink flower embroidery, she wore an apron over her outfit, the fabric slightly wrinkled from her morning efforts. As she prepared breakfast, she glanced over at her sleepy sister. Buttercup, could you get off your ass and help set up for breakfast? She called, urgency lacing her tone. Buttercup, sprawled face down on the counter, waved a dismissive hand in response. Still in her sleepwear, she wore an oversized black t-shirt and olive green pajama pants, her hair an even more wild mess, from a restless night. Blossom rolled her eyes at the sight but returned to her cooking. Using her telekinesis, she effortlessly gathered and placed the ingredients and tools she needed. While she knew how to be organized and cook without her special abilities, a little extra help never hurt. With the assistance of her powers, she didn't mind being a one-woman cooking team on most days. Finishing off the final preparations, she placed 3 bowls of oatmeal on the table, each with a different flavor to suit each girl's taste, cinnamon, blueberry, and banana, alongside some eggs, toast, and soup. As she turned around, her younger sister entered the kitchen. Good morning, Bubbles. Cute outfit. How did you sleep last night? Blossom greeted her with a smile. Bubbles beamed back. Good morning to you too, Blossom. I slept well, and thank you. She twirled playfully, showcasing her outfit. She wore a vibrant blue and yellow ensemble that reflected her bubbly personality, a light blue long-sleeve shirt, featuring cheerful prints of flowers. Her flouncy yellow skirt, with the flower embroidery, swayed with her movements, complemented by stylish white tights that added a pop of color and warmth. Bright blue sneakers adorned with fun, colorful accents completed her look. She also carried a small backpack, in the case to carry certain items that she may buy along the way. Morning Buttercup, she said, as she made her way to the table, sitting right next to her raven-haired sister. Morning, Buttercup returned, though hazily. So, Bubs, where are you off to today? Buttercup asked curiously. Seeing as you have that whole fun day out outfit or whatever, she gestured before taking another bite of her oatmeal. Bubbles took a bite of her breakfast, before replying. Oh, I'm spending the day with Koda. He wanted help with a new design for his hero costume and I was of course, happy to help, she cheerfully said. Geez, Bubbles, with the way things are going, you should become a stylist or designer, instead of a hero, Buttercup quipped. Not one of your worst ideas, Buttercup, cheekily she said, sticking out her tongue, for which Buttercup just rolled her eyes. Blossom took her seat. Well, that's nice of you to help him. But I hope it won't take too long. Tomorrow is school and all. Nah, it won't take too long, she reassured. The girls went on to eat, talking about what their own days looked like. After a while, Bubbles quickly left and bid her sisters farewell. Musudafu City. When Bubbles arrived at their meet-up spot, it was around 9 and the sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the streets. The bustling streets were alive with energy, and she felt a thrill of excitement as she took in her surroundings. It wasn't long before she spotted Koda waiting for her, wearing a white t-shirt and some comfortable shorts, his shy smile breaking through his typical bashfulness. Hey, Bubbles, he called, waving slightly. I'm glad you came, thanks you. Hi, Koda. It's no problem, we're going to have so much fun, she replied, her voice bright with enthusiasm. She gave him a hug that he returned with an obvious blush on his face. They soon left, on a hero fashion mission. With Bubbles' help, they hit the shops, wandered from store to store. They checked out different fabrics, colorful patterns, ordinary clothes, and quirky accessories. Koda, though a bit reserved, slowly warmed up to the experience. He shared his ideas about what hero costume designs he wants, and Bubbles listened attentively, her imagination racing alongside his. Since you like nature, how something with this, she suggested, holding up a camo fabric that. It could really make your costume pop. Koda looked at it thoughtfully. Yeah, I like that, it would definitely stand out in a sense, he said, inciting a giggle from Bubbles. As they ventured on, his enthusiasm grew, and Bubbles couldn't help but feel a swell of pride at being part of his creative process. It's no secret that her big friend was one of the shyest people she has met, but he was also one of the sweetest and loved that he opened up to her. They spent the morning diving into different stores, Koda becoming more animated with each idea they explored, though Bubbles had to shoot down some ideas of adding too much and vice versa on hers. Bubbles loved seeing his confidence grow, and soon they had gathered a collection of materials that sparked their imagination. As they made their way out of a particularly colorful craft shop, Bubbles felt a rush of satisfaction. We really found some great stuff today, she said, her voice bubbling with joy. Koda nodded, his cheeks flushed with happiness. Thanks for helping me, Bubbles, he said, his voice, at an audible tone now, as they made their way to the register. I really appreciate it. Bubbles smiled back at him. It's no problem at all. You're my friend, and I'm having so much fun. Her cheerful spirit was contagious, and Koda couldn't help but smile, his cheeks tinged pink. Bubbles wanted to check out one last thing that caught her eye, so she told Koda and he had no problem waiting by the register. Koda stood by, minding his own business, when a young boy, no older than 10, suddenly approached him, his eyes wide with curiosity. He stared at Koda, making him shift uncomfortably. Koda shifted a bit, before just addressing the child. Hey, there is something wrong, he asked gently. The boy didn't answer. Instead, he pointed at Koda and shouted, Rock Beast, as the words rang out, it caught the attention of several people in the store. Koda's face flushed with embarrassment, it was then that Bubbles, who was making her back, and like the other people in the store, heard and felt her heart drop. She ran over to the scene. Hey! That's not nice, she exclaimed, her tone firm but still kind. You shouldn't say that to people, especially ones you don't know. Before the child could say anything, just then, a woman, presumably the child's mother, strode in, her expression stern. Don't shout at my child, she snapped at Bubbles. Taken aback, Bubbles replied, but your son was being rude, she firmly said. It's not okay to say things like that. The woman scoffed, brushed her off dismissively. Kids will be kids, and honestly, your friend does look like a rock beast, she pointedly said. Besides, if people like him don't like people staring, he should cover up when he goes out in public. Her tone dripped with condescension. "Excuse me, what do you mean, people like him, exactly?" Crossing her arms, a faint glow emanated from her palms. She rolled her eyes. "I said what I said." Before she could continue, Koda gently tugged on her arm, whispering, It's okay, Bubbles, really I'm fine." His voice was soft, but Bubbles could hear the hint of sadness behind his words. Like he was defeated. "Koda," she looked at him, torn. She could sense that he wasn't fine, but didn't want to cause more trouble. "Okay, let's go." The woman huffed, "You should listen to your friend, at least he knows that what I said is the truth. Maybe he can teach you how to respect your elders," and turned to leave with her child, who had some decency to look bit ashamed. Bubbles felt a mix of frustration and concern as they paid for their items. Koda remained quiet, his shoulders slumped, clearly affected by the encounter. As they stepped outside, Bubbles glanced at him. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked gently. Koda shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe next time." Bubbles felt a knot in her stomach. She wanted to help him feel better but didn't want to push. After a moment of hesitation, Koda surprised her by pulling her into a soft hug. "Thanks for being a good friend," he said, his voice muffled against her hair. Bubbles hugged him back tightly, wishing she could take away his discomfort. "You're welcome, Koda. I'll always be here for you." They broke apart, and Koda offered a small smile. "Bye, Bubbles, and thanks again for today." "See you tomorrow, Koda," she called as he walked away, feeling a lingering sadness. The encounter still weighed heavily on her heart. With a sigh, Bubbles decided to take a walk. She needed to clear her mind, hoping that the fresh air would lift her spirits. She found a nearby park and sat quietly on the park bench, lost in thought. "I hope Koda is okay." That woman, she had no right to dash when she suddenly felt a presence nearby. She turned to see a girl who looked to be about her age, with skin the color of pale moonlight and messy, light pink hair that spiked out wildly. The girl's unusual crimson eyes sparkled with mischief and curiosity. Sharp claws tipped her fingers, and her smile revealed slightly elongated canine teeth, giving her an edgy look that blended cute and fierce. "Hey there," the girl exclaimed, her voice high and lively. "I couldn't help but notice you were sad, so I came over to ask. What's with the frown? You're way too cute to look like that." She giggled. Bubbles, a bit surprised, managed a small smile in response, although the heaviness in her heart lingered. "Thanks, but I just had a rough day." The girl shrugged nonchalantly, leaning against the bench as if they were old friends. "Rough days are like annoying people, they eventually pass away," she said cheerily, making Bubbles curious about the analogy. "But hey, you know what?" she abruptly continued. "I've got a bright idea. Let's forget about the idiots of this world and go have some fun." Before Bubbles could respond, the girl grabbed her wrist and pulled her up with surprising strength. "Wait, where are we going?" Bubbles asked, stumbling to her feet, her eyes wide with surprise. "I don't even know your name." "To the arcade first, silly," the girl chirped. "And you can call me Yuki," she said, dragging Bubbles along. With a grip on Bubbles' wrist that felt like a playful vice, they left the park and headed to the street. Bubbles didn't know this girl at all, she knew she should have resisted. Yet there was something about Yuki that stirred her sympathy, as if she were hiding something beneath a mask. Trusting her instincts, Bubbles took hold of the girl's hand as well. She turned to face Yuki with one of her kind smiles. "Okay, let's go." "Oh, and you can call me Bubbles," she replied, matching Yuki's speed. She didn't notice a slight change in Yuki's expression. "I know. I saw you on TV." Off they went. As they approached the neon-lit arcade, Bubbles felt her eyes widen in wonder. The building was adorned with vibrant lights flashing in all colors, drawing in a lively crowd. The sounds of cheerful music, laughter, and the clatter of arcade machines filled the air, creating an electric atmosphere. Bubbles had never been to an arcade before, and the sheer energy of the place was intoxicating. Inside, the walls were lined with rows of games, each one competing for attention with its flashing lights and catchy sound effects. Yuki pulled Bubbles toward a racing game, her enthusiasm contagious. Come on. Let's see who's the best driver. As they settled into the game, Bubbles felt a rush of exhilaration, different from flying, of course. The vibrant colors of the screen and the rumble of the controls heightened her senses. They played several rounds, laughing and taking goofy selfies with oversized plush prizes, which added to the whimsical atmosphere. Bubbles found herself relaxing, the earlier incident fading into the background like a distant memory. The thrill of competition, mixed with the joy of unexpected friendship, washed over her. Next, Yuki grabbed Bubbles and led her to a karaoke booth, its walls lined with colorful lights and adorned with fun decorations. Your turn. Sing something fun, she insisted, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Bubbles didn't hesitate for a moment, Yuki's infectious enthusiasm encouraged her. She took the microphone, her heart racing as she belted out a bubbly pop song, the lyrics flowing easily as she lost herself in the melody. Yuki danced around her, clapping and cheering loudly, her vibrant spirit bringing a smile to Bubbles' face. The booth was filled with laughter, and for a moment, the world outside felt far away. Later in the afternoon, after their whirlwind of games and songs, they ended up at a nearby cafe, where they enjoyed desserts and talked. Bubbles was on her phone, sending a quick text in their group chat. Redbow, hey, Bubbles, glad you're doing fine. If it's not a bother, could you please get me a strawberry cheesecake on your way home? Butte Punch, yeah. I want chocolate cake from there, too. Redbow, Buttercup. Butte Punch, please. She rolled her eyes fondly, before she sent a quick yes, and then looked up at Yuki, who merely tilted her head. Do I have something in my teeth? She giggled. Bubbles shook her head. No, it's not that. I just feel bad that you're not eating. I offered to pay for your food, she said, feeling guilty. Yuki merely chuckled. You're sweet, she mused, a glint in her eyes. But I don't really have the same food preferences that other normal people do. Just then, Bubbles groaned, her mood soured as she recalled the earlier events. Oh, is it something I said? Yuki asked curiously. She sighed. No, just remembering something that happened earlier, that's all. Bubbles shrugged to play it off, but Yuki wasn't having it. Oh, come on. I want the delicious details, maybe I can help. I'm a good listener, she persisted. Bubbles thought it over. She didn't know this person well, but she felt that sharing her experience could help her understand more about the topic they were discussing. So she told Yuki everything that had happened and how it made her feel. Yuki's expression shifted, a slight frown appearing, then a glint of mischief in her eyes. Well, some people are just uncute when they act so ugly towards others. Then her demeanor changed again, a hint of darkness creeping into her smile. Makes me want to make them all pretty though, in my own ways, she mused. Bubbles felt a knot in her stomach. Yeah, it was awful. This woman was so judgmental. I just don't get why people can't respect each other, no matter how different we all look. Yuki chuckled, a hint of sadness flickering in her eyes. You must be new here or something. People judging others. It's kind of the norm. Those who don't fit into the box get looked down on. Bubbles frowned, shaking her head. Even if that's how it is, it's still not right. Everyone deserves kindness. We should all love and understand each other. Yuki's smile faltered, and she brushed Bubbles off playfully. Love and understanding. That's a fairy tale, sweetie. People like us, she paused, glancing at her reflection in the window, are never seen as normal. We live in a world where no one is made equal, and those who have the privilege to accept that, well, let's just say you learn to like being alone. Bubbles took a deep breath, her heart swelling with empathy. You know, she said softly, you're not alone. If you want, I can be your friend. Yuki paused for a moment, stunned, before a laugh bubbled up from her lips. The sound was unexpected, and Bubbles felt a little taken aback. When Yuki's laughter quickly faded, she smirked. "You're funny. You're serious, aren't you?" she stared. "You spent the day with a stranger, open up to them, and now you want to be friends? What if I was sent to hurt you? Or kidnap you? I could even want to do something more to my taste," she said with a smirk that exposed her canines. Bubbles held a blank expression for a moment, then burst into a warm smile that caught Yuki off guard. "Well," Bubbles said, shaking her head gently, "let's just say I know you wouldn't do that, seeing as you had certain chances today. Besides, you seem like a good person, even if you're wearing a mask." The comment caught Yuki off balance. "What mask?" "I don't understand what you mean," she replied, trying to play it cool, but there was a slight edge to her voice. Bubbles took a sip of her tea, contemplating her words. "I understand what it means to be a bit different where I'm from, but I won't pretend to know what you're going through, Yuki. But I'd like you to know we can be friends." Yuki didn't respond immediately. Instead, she stared at Bubbles, her gaze unfocused. Then she looked away, as if the words had struck a nerve. "Not everyone needs a friend," she muttered, her tone dropping as she stood up. "Wait, where are you going?" Bubbles asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. Yuki turned around, her expression shifting back to a wide, almost unsettling smile. "I suddenly got hungry. The place to get my special food is just a few blocks away." Bubbles hesitated, a frown forming. "Do you want me to escort you?" Yuki muttered something under her breath, barely a whisper, but Bubbles couldn't catch it. "Nice talking to you," Yuki said, her smile still plastered on her face as she turned and walked away without looking back. Bubbles watched her go, a swirl of thoughts racing through her mind. What just happened? The unexpected warmth of their earlier connection felt like a distant memory now. She stood there for a moment, feeling a mix of concern and curiosity about Yuki, before reluctantly turning back toward the cafe to fulfill her sister's favors. Bubbles stood at the counter, double-checking her order with the barista. After handing over the money, she received her treats with a bright smile. "Thank you," she chirped, her cheerful tone bouncing off the cafe walls. Just as she was about to head out, the door swung open, and her heart sank. There, standing before her, was the last person she wanted to see, the same woman from the store. The moment their eyes met, the woman visibly sneered, a look that reminded Bubbles of Bakugou's trademark scowl. "I guess she's still in a mood." Paying her no mind, Bubbles walked past her, the woman reciprocated, barely acknowledging her presence. Finally outside, she took a few steps away from the cafe, heading toward the train station. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Lady, wait." Bubbles turned to see the little boy from the store running after her. He stopped, catching his breath. Surprised, she asked gently, "Hello, is something wrong?" The boy didn't say anything, shifting uncomfortably, his face marred with unease. Bubbles sensed it and was about to comfort him when he blurted out, "I am sorry for what I did at the store," he stammered. "I didn't mean to make your friend so uncomfortable. He just reminded me of this cool video game character, you know, and I was so excited, but I'm really sorry." His misty eyes looked up at Bubbles, overflowing with guilt. Bubbles was taken aback. She wasn't angry with the boy, her frustration had been directed at his mother. But seeing him take responsibility touched her heart. A warm smile spread across her face as she knelt down, pulling him into a gentle hug. "It's okay," she reassured him softly. "Just try to be more mindful of how your words affect others, okay?" He nodded against her shoulder, whispering another apology. Bubbles rubbed his back, continuing to soothe him. "Really, it's okay," she said, her voice calm and kind. After a moment, Bubbles spotted the boy's mother returning from the restroom. Not wanting to stir up any more trouble, she gently encouraged the boy, "Why don't you run back to your mom? She might be worried about you." The boy nodded, giving her one last hug before racing back inside. Bubbles stood there for a moment, reflecting on the encounter. This world isn't like Townsville, but it still has people who are kind and understanding. She thought, making her way home. Unknown alleyway. Yuki strolled down an eerily quiet street, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. The air felt thick, heavy with a silence that hinted at something lurking beneath the surface. Dilapidated houses loomed on either side, their paint peeling and windows darkened, creating an unsettling atmosphere. As she walked, she couldn't help but think about the day she had. That girl is really weird though. I did have fun beating her at the games. Today, she stopped in her tracks. It's a shame I didn't have much of a taste for her in the end. I wonder why, she thought to herself. She looked really strong and sweet. Not alone friends, Yuki mused to herself. A faint smile threatened to tug at the corners of her lips. But that thought was quickly overshadowed by the reality of her existence. Just then, a couple of seedy-looking guys stepped out from an alleyway, their expressions leering and predatory. Yuki didn't flinch, she simply regarded them with a bored expression. "Hey there, little freaky mutant," one of them catcalled, stepping closer. "What's a girl like you doing all alone?" "Don't you worry," the other chimed in, smirking. "We're just looking out for you. There are some bad people out there who wouldn't take kindly to someone like you." Yuki maintained her cool demeanor, an enigmatic smile playing on her lips. The two men exchanged glances, clearly misjudging her calm. One of them took a step forward, his intentions clear. "Well, since you have no objecti-dash," but before he could touch her, Yuki's hand shot out like a flash, gripping his arm with surprising strength. The man's eyes widened in shock as she twisted, applying pressure until he screamed, "Let go." Her expression remained focused, unwavering. With a swift motion, she released him, sending him stumbling backward into the wall of the alley. He groaned, disbelief washing over his face. The other guy, anger flashing in his eyes, shouted a stream of profanity. "We were going to go easy on you, but not anymore." Activating his quirk, with a flick of his wrist, knives extended from his palms, glinting in the dim light. Yuki smiled, but it was no ordinary smile, it was predatory. "Thank you for the offer," she said, her voice taking on an unsettling tone. "But I don't think you're my type." Suddenly, her skin began to dissolve, leaving the men paralyzed with horror. As gray, viscous liquid peeled away from her, it revealed that her skin had been a disguise all along. The girl before them was transformed, her fair skin glowed in the dim light, her crimson eyes shifting to inward tilting yellow with thin, slit-like irises. Her hair changed to a pale ash blonde, styled into two messy buns that framed her face. With a wide smile, she continued, "But I think you would be cuter if you wore something red." A maniacal laugh escaped her lips, revealing her sharp, vampiric teeth, before she jumped the screaming men, their voices echoing through the walls. She sighed. "Yuck. Those guys were disgusting, outside and inside," the girls remarked, wiping her face of the horrid taste. "Oh well, no accounting for taste, when you're hungry," she shrugged, leaving the bloodied scene, without a care in the world. UA. Arriving at school, the girls walked down the halls, and despite the warm weather outside, a heavy chill hung over them, courtesy of a visibly upset Bubbles. Her scowl could rival the Grinch's, and her sisters were doing their best to avoid escalating the situation. Even though, they don't know what was wrong. After an uncomfortable silence, Buttercup and Blossom exchanged glances, silently debating who would approach Bubbles first. After a few seconds of unspoken argument, Blossom let out a reluctant sigh and angrily whispered, "Fine," to Buttercup as she strode over to her younger sister. Taking a deep breath, she put on a smile. "Hey, Bubbles, so, Buttercup and I," she shot a quick glare at her sister, "noticed you seemed upset since this morning. Care to share what's wrong?" She gently probed, trying not to come on too strong. Bubbles took a breath of her own. "Yeah, sorry girls, it's just something silly." "You don't need to worry," she shrugged it off with a forced smile. Yeah, nope. "Not buying it," Buttercup said, marching over. You only get like this when your feelings are hurt or someone's pissed you off, so spill. I want to know if I get to throw a punch soon. To emphasize her point, she cracked her knuckles. Blossom shot a pleading glance at Bubbles, silently asking her not to get into any fights. No, it's not that, Bubbles sighed. Well, you see. This morning, on TV. Welcome back, everyone, to our live show, the TV host said. He was an ordinary man in his early to late 30s, with black, slightly wavy hair, wearing a white t-shirt and a blue tie. He stood in front of a large screen monitor with the channel's logo on it. The room was abuzz with murmurs and whispers from the TV crew and other workers on the set. Cameras were positioned at specific angles, focusing on the show. For our next topic, is it really necessary for heroes to dress sexily? Let's have our special guests discuss it with us, he said, gesturing to the two pro-heroines seated at a table. Our first guest is an up-and-coming hero making her debut known, Empty Lady, he announced. The woman, dressed in her new costume, basked in a short-lived applause before it was cut off. And our next guest is a longtime pro who is working at UA as a teacher. Please give it up for Midnight, he added. The woman gave a sultry smile that garnered a lot of applause, causing a certain other hero to feel envious. Now, folks, I ask these lovely ladies to come on the show and give their input on my question. If I may, I would like to address the question to Midnight, seeing as your clothing choices have not only shaped hero costume regulations but it seems that your new costume is, shall we say, even more striking than before, the man said with a playful, shameless air. Empty Lady quietly seethed, while Midnight didn't miss a beat. Well, I can surely say that my past clothing styles have been an experiment. I'll say, Empty Lady interrupted, but Midnight ignored her. Yes, due to the nature of some people's quirks, the material of the hero costume needs to be altered to better accommodate it. And not just for their quirks, it also has to be suited for their job and fighting style. Sexiness is not just an aesthetic, sometimes it's necessary for us to do our job effectively. Besides, what's sexier than a hero who can do their job well? Midnight said confidently, drawing thoughtful expressions from many. I think you seek attention, Empty Lady said curtly, causing an annoyed expression to appear on Midnight. Before anything could escalate, the host stepped in. Yes, Midnight makes an excellent point. But please tell us, where did you get the inspiration for this new costume? It almost makes me want to obey you, he said jokingly, garnering some laughs. Midnight perked up, smiling fondly. I cannot take the credit here. A certain student of mine helped me design the costume you see on me. And might I say, I wouldn't mind bending you to my whims, she said with a playful but suggestive smile, which seemed to fluster the man and many of the crew members. Empty Lady sked. Please tell that student, whoever they are, that they shouldn't quit their day job. I don't see anything special about this and it seems impractical, she said with a short giggle. I don't see them having a career with Best Jeanist, much less starting their own clothing brand. That made Midnight snap. She turned to the other woman with a glare. I won't tolerate anyone blatantly disrespecting one of my key students, especially not some wannabe ditzy diva. How about you mind your own business and worry about your own slowing career? Don't be mad just because I'm stating facts. Empty Lady retorted with her own anger. It's my job as an actual hero to bring some common sense to certain people, including misguided stylists. Why, you insolent! The entire show was thrown into chaos as crew members struggled to hold back the two arguing women from brawling. Seriously? You're mad because some lady with ego growth power dissed your design for Nemuri? Buttercup asked incredulously. We're at school, Buttercup. It's midnight here, Blossom corrected. Buttercup just rolled her eyes and walked away. It's not just that, she was also so rude to Midnight, Bubbles scowled. Like seriously, I spotted that same hero at the sports festival and noticed how Empty Lady was just as arrogant and dismissive of others' efforts. It really got to me. I mean, Midnight and I put a lot of thought into that costume, and it's not like MHA Lady had the right to belittle the work on live TV. Bubbles' frustration was evident, and her fists clenched as she recounted the morning's events. Though it is kind of silly to worry about some lady's opinions, Blossom said, placing a comforting hand on her sister's shoulder. But I do understand why you're upset. It's never easy to see someone you look up to or care about being put down like that. I get it, but UGH. Bubbles' faint blue aura indicated her anger, and little bees began to form around her. Blossom sighed, exasperated, but before she could attempt to do anything, she heard Buttercup call out. "Alright, big guy, do your thing," Buttercup said. Blossom turned to see her classmate Koda walking over. As he approached, he seemed a bit flustered before going over to Bubbles, avoiding the bees and giving her a big hug. Blossom was surprised but could see her sister calming down. Bubbles sighed and blushed a bit. "Thanks, Koda," she said as she returned the hug. Koda blushed more as he was hugged. Walking over to her sister, Blossom asked, "You know, we could have handled it ourselves, right?" with a playful raised eyebrow. Buttercup shrugged. I wasn't really in the mood for hugs." "Come on, let's leave these two saps alone for now," she said with a smirk. Blossom followed with a giggle. "Homeroom. Alright, now that you are all here, let's get right to what's important," Aizawa grumbled as he adjusted the papers in his hands. "You have 1 week until your final exams. Over the next few days, make sure you study what you have learned, but don't slack off on your training. There are 2 parts to the final, a written test and a practical portion. While the practical section will be the larger part of your grade, the written section can still impact your overall standing. To give you an idea of what I mean, here are the current academic standings from your midterms." Aizawa clicked the remote, and the board in front of the class changed to a large bracket displaying all the students' rankings. "I have to go to the office now for a few minutes. Good luck." 1. Blossom Kayama. 2. Momo Yaoyorozu. 3. Tenya Ida. 4. Katsuki Bakugou. 5. Izukumidoriya. 6. Shototodoroki. 7. Tsuyu Azui. 8. Kyoka Jiro. 9. Bubbles Kayama. 10. Mizo Shoji. 11. Buttercup Kayama. 12. Koji Koda. 13. Ochiko Uraraka. 14. Fumikage Tokoyami. 15. Ejiro Kirishima. 16. Toru Hagakure. 17. Hanta Siro. 18. Yuga Aoyama. 19. Mina Ashido. 20. Denki Kaminari. As soon as Aizawa left, chaos erupted. "I barely took notes this semester." Kaminari and Mina exclaimed in dread. "I am so toast, please tell me this is not happening," Kaminari said in a defeated tone, while Mina hysterically laughed. While many were not too surprised by some of their classmates' standings, others gasped in shock at their own placements. "Oh no," Uraraka said with a sense of unease. She quickly thought. "This is utterly disgraceful. As heroes in training, we are supposed to be exemplary students," Ida chiding his classmates, while chopping the air. "Easy for you to say, Ida. Not everyone is a robot like you." Kaminari retorted defensively. "Ugh, this sucks," Buttercup muttered under her breath, seeing her position. Just then, Siro walked over to her with an amused smile. "What's so funny?" Buttercup asked, peeved. "Oh, nothing. Just that I find it funny that your sisters are in the top 10 while you placed lower. I guess we know who the smart ones are among you 3, huh?" Siro said with a mock grin. Buttercup was seething on the inside, but she gave him a sugary sweet smile and said, "Yes, you must be right." Her eyes glowed a dangerous green, "but unlike my sisters, I'm not afraid to put annoying jerks in their place, huh?" Siro suddenly felt a deadly aura coming from her and quickly backed off. Just then, Izuku turned to Buttercup. "Are you okay, Buttercup? Don't listen to Siro. I think he was just joking. Besides, I don't think you're any less smart than your sisters, he said with an encouraging smile. Buttercup felt better, though she wouldn't admit it. She had a history of being compared to her sisters, and it was annoying. She knew she was just as capable as they were, but it sucked. Buttercup sighed. Thanks, Green Bean, she shrugged. I don't really care what Triangle Mouth has to say, anyway, she said, acting nonchalant. He chuckled a bit. Right, he smiled, well, that's great to hear. Meanwhile, Blossom was deep in thought about what the exam could entail when someone tapped her shoulder to get her attention. She turned to see Aoyama. Oh, hello. Aoyama, right? She asked shyly, not really knowing all her classmates. Aoyama nodded and struck a dramatic pose. Oui, Mademoiselle Blossom, he said, with sparkles floating around him. Where they came from, she didn't know. I am in need of your assistance. You see, my academic standing is, how I shall put it, less than spectacular. He sighed with a touch of melodrama. I would be eternally grateful if you could offer me some tutoring. Your brilliance in academics is quite well known, and I am confident that under your guidance, I shall be able to raise my standing and truly shine. Blossom blinked, taken aback by his over-the-top demeanor. She hadn't interacted much with Aoyama before, and his flashy approach was a bit surprising. Well, I'm not sure how much help I can be, but I guess I could help you out with some studying. I do know a few things about the subjects we're covering. Aoyama's eyes lit up with genuine gratitude. Oh, mademoiselle, you have no idea how relieved I am. Your assistance would mean the world to me. I promise to be a most dedicated student and to follow your guidance with the utmost seriousness. Together, we shall conquer these exams with flair. Blossom nodded, trying to get used to his theatrical style. All right, let's me set up a time then. I'm sure we can work something out. And, don't worry too much. We'll get through this. Aoyama performed an elaborate bow, his voice filled with gratitude. Merci, Mademoiselle Blossom. Your generosity will not go unappreciated. I look forward to our study sessions and to dazzling the world with newfound brilliance. He then left, and just as she was back to her thoughts, she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Kirishima standing there, looking a bit bashful. His usual confident demeanor seemed slightly subdued. Hey, Blossom, Kirishima said, scratching the back of his head. I couldn't help but overhear that you're helping Aoyama with some tutoring. I was wondering if you might be able to help me out too, with the exams and all. I mean, if you have the time and don't mind. I know I'm not exactly top of the class or anything. Blossom's eyes softened with a smile. Oh, of course, Kirishima, she coughed, easing her surprised stutter, I'd be happy to help. Just let me know what you need, and we can figure out a time that works for both of us. Kirishima's eyes widened but relaxed, and his face lit up with a bright, toothy grin. Thanks, Blossom. This is going to be a great tutoring session. I really appreciate it. With that, Kirishima gave a quick, enthusiastic wave and bounded off to join his friends. Blossom was feeling left with her thoughts and an idea brewing, turning back to see a certain student with others surrounding her. I wonder, she thought, a new idea beginning to form in her mind. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 10. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author ChiWriters on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.